That's the time people use. I'm glad to do
How many county commissioners do you guys have in Hammond County? What's the total population? For the county? Yeah. Okay. Is it currently live streaming?
Yeah, we just
When you say just, I mean like just now?
like a minute ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's first meeting of 2019 of the Board of Mayor Aldermen. Tonight is our first meeting. We have a newly elected alderman, and a couple of the others of us needs to be sworn in. So if you'll give us a few minutes, we'll do this at the first of the meeting. And we'll start with our attorney, Bob Nostine. He will do the swearing in, and we'll do it down here in the front. Anyone that wants pictures made with their husband or spouse or sister or brother are welcome to do that. So, Bob, come on down.
Just so everybody's aware of this, we did actually, this is our second swearing-in ceremony. We did one previously right at the start of the beer board meeting, so we would have a full panel for that meeting. But this is the more formal one, the photo opportunities, and the one, in this case, we'll take each person individually, so you'll get a chance to hear them sworn in. Tommy, you're first in line. You want to come up? Coach Flagger. And she, you're welcome. Hold that for her. Should have this memorized by now. Well, get close. I, Walter T. Duggar III. I, Walter T. Duggar III, do hereby swear that I am qualified, as required by the state of Tennessee, state statute, to hold the office of Alderman of the town of Nolensville, Tennessee. And I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and of this state, and the charter and ordinances of the town of Nolensville. And will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Alderman to the best of my ability. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Calling you a lot of experience. If you want to buy one. Yeah. Repeat after me. I, Derek Adams. Do hereby swear. That I am qualified. As required by the state of Tennessee. State statutes. To hold the office of Alderman. Of the town of Nolensville, Tennessee. And I will support. And defend. The Constitution. Of the United States. And of this state. And the charter and ordinances. Of the town of Nolensville. And will faithfully discharge. The duties of the office. Of Alderman. To the best of my ability. Congratulations. Hey, man. Get a little too hot. How are you? If you'll repeat after me. I, Jimmy Alexander. Do hereby swear. That I am qualified. As required by the state of Tennessee. State statutes. To hold the office of mayor. Of the town of Nolensville, Tennessee. And I will support. And defend. The Constitution. Of the United States. And of this state. And the charter and ordinances. Of the town of Nolensville. And will faithfully discharge. The duties. Of the office of mayor. To the best of my ability. Congratulations. No, bring the family.
I've got a large family. I hope y'all these are my family, and Janice is a big part of our family. So Janice, you'll come in here. Carly, I want you to stand in front of me. How's that? You're the boss. You stand wherever you want. You're the boss in this. So
okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, hold on a second, Jason. Let me introduce y'all. Jason, my son. Jennifer, my daughter-in-law. Kelly, my daughter-in-law. Scott, my son. Janice, love of my life. And Carly, and Kobe, Jimmy, and Christine. All Alexanders, as far as I know. Thank you.
Of the board, yes.
Got them all here. Okay. Good job. All right, that's what we were elected to do. Smile at Callie.
Excuse me.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the prayer and the pledge. Tonight, Alderman Duggar will lead us in our prayer and pledge. Let's pray.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything you've given us. Thank you for the opportunity to live in America, Tennessee, and the great town of Nolensville. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for being with us. Be with the sick, touch them and heal them. Be with the lost. And Lord, be with this board in this new year and give us the wisdom to do what's best for Nolensville. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me, again, just before the citizens' comments, we're in the beginning stages of figuring out what we're going to do. I think Jason Patrick and I have talked it over a couple times about live streaming, and we've done it for a couple of months. It hasn't been perfect, and we're working on. We met with industry expert this afternoon, and we have plans in the works next month to make it much better than it has been for the last 2 months. You want to add anything to that, Ken?
Well, absolutely. I think a couple of quick thank yous. I know you may be reluctant, but I'm not. Jason and Colby, certainly appreciate what you've done to help out. Brian Snyder in the back as well, and that was sort of our entree into it. Now we have Derek on board, and Derek's very interested in also participating and facilitating, so I think we'll just continue to see with the momentum and so forth that's been started, betterment in the new year. So unfortunately this evening probably isn't a good indication of that, but
Yeah.
moving forward.
Again, we met with some experts this afternoon about 4:30, and we've got some insights on how to make it much better.
Absolutely.
And we will be doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And that's part of Vice Mayor Patrick and my plan is to make it better. We appreciate Derek's interest, his expertise, and we'll be certainly we can utilize that in the future. Next item on the agenda is the citizens' input and comments. Janice, can you read up who's first? Go ahead and read it. Real high school. Smart.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman, my name is Bill Highsmith, and I live at 2604 York Road, and I'm here to speak concerning the Herman Henry's property. And Mr. Mayor, I have some photos that I would like to for you to look at, pass around while I speak, if I may approach.
Sure.
My big concern, among others, is a water situation. 4 or 5 times a year, of course, we all live in Nolan, but we know we get these huge rains and that drainage ditches and everything overflow and so forth. But my problem is that this property is I get a huge runoff every time that it rains hard. And my little drainage dishes don't begin to cover that. And you'll see from the pictures that I am passing around, you can see on number one that that is the Henry property where the leaves are there going back. And you can see how much water has come off there. Also, you'll notice that as you look through these, the next one, you can see I've got a lot of water. And over a period of time, this has washed away a lot of soil and nothing. Of course, it was nothing but forest and so forth, and I dealt with it, didn't expect it. But now with development going in, and what you see here is before any roads are built, it's before we see all the rainwater that's going to come off of the houses. If I read the plat right, there's about 13 houses that are going to be backed up to my property, and a lot of rain will come off of those roofs, and so I lose property constantly with each of these rains. But not only do I get it from there, but which makes this even worse is that on the other side, you will see some pictures there from the other piece of property on the other side of me. I get huge runoff, and then there is a cul-de-sac right there on York Road, and it is fed by two large drainage ditches coming off of the mountain. And so therefore I live in a log house, but I don't want it to become Noah's Ark. And you know, I really encourage that something be done as the construction goes on to take care of a lot of this rain and of this runoff because it is very disturbing.
Thank you. That's very well said, and we will watch this closely as we begin to get plans of grading and drainage. What we have now is basically a concept plan, but the engineering will be on the plans that we get, and Wes will watch it closely.
Yes, sir.
Count on me.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next on our to speak list, Joan Lawler. Last time I saw Joan, she's being cut out of a car.
Not my finest moment.
Not your finest moment.
I just want to issue some thanks to everybody who's been so kind for cards and letters and well wishes. Specifically you, Mr. Mayor, and you, Tommy, for staying with me while I was in the wreck, and it was a terrifying time. And just simply, I couldn't see you, Mr. Mayor, and actually I couldn't see you very much, Tommy, because I was seeing double. I closed my eyes. But just simply that you were there was helpful. That Ken McLaughlin braved the Vanderbilt parking garage to bring me flowers is greatly and deeply appreciated. But there is a special group that I want to say thank you to, and that's to the firefighters and the EMS and our police department. Life is so funny. I felt when I left the BZA meeting that I was in control of my life, and everything was fine. And within a nanosecond, everything was not fine. It's terrifying. You don't even know, or I didn't even know what exactly had happened. And so I didn't know what to move, cry, yell, scream. But when the EMS came, and I guess they ran off the mayor and Tom because they were in the way. And I'm glad, but thank you. But to the people who are in the fire department and the EMS, it was terrifying. You had to cut me out of the car, as the mayor says. That was terrifying. But simply your professionalism, the way that you were calm, the way that you spoke to me and told me every bit of the way what you were doing next and what to prepare for. And I guess I said ow a few times. I hope I didn't say more than ow. But I am deeply grateful for the assistance that you folks rendered. And the police department for, I understand they had to route the traffic through the parking lot to get around the wreck. But to all of you guys who serve, thank you very much.
Joan?
Yes,
If you
sir.
don't mind, we also want to thank the doctors at Vanderbilt Hospital for getting you back in the shape you're in and well enough to come here tonight. And if I can, I'd like to take something out of order just a bit here. I'd like to introduce John Lawler, Ms. John Lawler, as the newest member of our planning commission. All of you have a bio in front of you. I think you'll be a great addition to the planning commission, and so happy for you getting much better, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Is that okay with y'all?
And Mr. Lawler said if he hadn't been sick, he'd been driving, and he probably wouldn't have had a role.
Thank you. Next on our list is, I think you'll be glad to meet this gentleman. I've had 2 meals with him out, and we've talked about several things, and his interest is having a newspaper in here in this town to replace what we had a few years ago, the Dispatch. His name is Harrison McClary. Are you here, Harrison? He plans on getting started rather quickly here, and I invited him to the mic to introduce him and get a few words from him.
Hello, everyone. My name is Harrison McClary, as Jimmy so kindly said. I am starting...
Address, if you don't mind.
Oh, I live at 8206 Morning View Court down in Brentwood, but I come to Nolensville a lot, so don't hold that against me. I am starting a newspaper in Nolensville. It's going to be a once-a-month publication, very local, tabloid size. It's going to be delivered directly to your mailboxes. If you live where the Nolensville Post Office delivers to, you will get the newspaper in the mail. And it will also be set a couple of places around town where you can pick it up if you don't live where the Nolensville Post Office delivers. You know, if you live across the county line like I do in Brentwood, you'll have to come pick it up somewhere. But it's going to be very local. If any of you have any information from schools or sports or churches or any activities, any clubs, anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know, because I want it to be very local. I want it to be strictly Nolensville oriented. Any kind of information you all have and want to share, please feel free to get it to me. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NOLENEWSOBS. That's the Nolensville News and Observer is the paper's name. So thank you all very much, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Harrison. We appreciate it. We missed the newspaper since it went out of business a few years ago, and tickled to death that you're here.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from the December 5th meeting. I'll start it out by making a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Discussion? There be no discussion, all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Passed unanimously. The next item is treasurer's report through November of 2018. You all have a copy of it. I'll make a motion that we approve the treasurer's report.
I'll second. I have a question.
Okay, we have a second. Now discussion.
Where's Julie?
Julie's here.
Julie, okay. So on the balances, I know we have balances in different locations, different accounts. My concern, or my question and concern, I guess, is on some of the interest rates we're receiving and the disparity between them. And I'm sure there's a logical explanation, and we may be going through some kind of RFP or something at some point in terms of banking, but I just went through and did some rough math, based on a 2% rate at some of our larger balances. And when I go through and do that calculation, it comes out to about $2,645.34 different in terms of how much we're potentially losing out on a monthly basis in interest. And so I just wanted to better understand kind of what the situation is.
Sure. Can I talk about meeting?
Can you come to the mic?
Okay, sure.
I didn't use the 2.18, I just used 2, because I know 2 is pretty
Sure.
reasonable at a lot of places right now, so.
Well, one thing that we did to keep the funds liquid, we moved some over to the LGIP pool, and because that rate was about 2.18. But I also went back to F&B and spoke with them, and we negotiated a new rate, and it's 45% of prime. So right before the rates went up, that would have been 2.36. I haven't recalculated to see that. That just happened right before the holidays. And so now we've been back. I haven't had a chance to move the funds over. But Ken and I had talked about CDs and things like that to get higher rates. I even spoke with a few local banks around here. And their CD rates couldn't even touch what F&B could give us. So we'll still continue to monitor that. But I'm really excited that F&B can get 45% of prime, and so it'll be variable. They'll always go up as rates go up. So that's good.
I figured you were on it.
That's good in the interim, but we just kind of, with the holidays, that kind of, we're a couple weeks behind with getting the money moved over. But back in November is when we we opened up 3 new accounts for the LGIP pool, and I moved $10 million over to take advantage of that.
Do we still have all the appropriate insurances in place with the various balances we have?
Correct.
At different locations?
The LGIP is guaranteed because it's part of the pool, and F&B is also
They're
part of the pool.
of the pool,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure with
Absolutely.
Jay, I
Oh,
figured that was the
absolutely,
case,
yes.
but, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers, so what we'll see on the December report is a reflection in the rates all changing, or most of the rates changing, at least in
Yes, you will see more.
the larger balances.
Well, the LGIP, the $10 million that we moved over there, we'll have that a full month worth of the greater than 2%. And then either tomorrow, probably starting next week, I'll start moving the money back to F&B, which is already a higher rate, about 30 to 40 basis points higher.
Good.
And they will give us that on even the smaller balances. On every.
Well, that's really good.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, forgot to say that.
good.
Tommy?
All right, Ken or Judy, since you're there, I guess, the liability insurance, it's almost double year to date. So I was just wondering, well, I mean, budget year to date, I think is 55,000, and we're already at 101,000.
The liability increased, last year, I think the total liability insurance was about 49,000. This year it was 69,000. The majority of the increase has to do with the police department, the increase in certified officers, because now we're fully staffed and we weren't last year. It is based on the actual count of certified officers, and the addition to the reserve officers that are classified as non-certified. They're allowed to carry 24/7, so those two things are the largest component of the increase in the liability.
So
And I
we'll have a
can
large-
look at the more specific detail, but I remember that the police department was 10 to 14,000 of that increase.
So we're gonna have a large adjustment at the end of the year, basically.
The budget amendment?
Budget amendment.
Possibly. We're looking at other ways to, if we save money in a different account, then maybe we can use that to offset that increase.
We'll know that a little bit later.
Mhm.
That number just jumped out at me, so.
Any other questions?
And we don't ever, I think I know the answer to this question, we don't ever tap into the debt service piece that we're separating out for any of these other expenditures.
No, absolutely not.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
There be no other questions, all in favor of approval of the treasurer's report through November, say aye. Aye. Moving on to meeting reports, we've already talked with Joan. Planning Commission, Sarah?
Thank you, Mayor. We had a planning commission meeting on December 11th and had 3 items on the agenda. The Berkeley Village Phase 3 final plat, a final plat for 2340 Newsom Lane that was withdrawn by the applicant, and then an amendment to the store place site plan to change the outbuilding from a restaurant facility to a bank and retail facility. The zoning ordinance update has continued to move forward. We had our second meeting with Trees and Trails Committee, and we're going to be looking at the design review committee next to meet with them on their thoughts on changes to Appendix E possibly. It's more of a first meeting with them is going to be just more of a input. Tell us what your thoughts are on it. What are your ideas about things you see that maybe could be changed, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the direction we're approaching it from there. The historic district grant project is in TDOT's hands right now. So we're awaiting the initiation phase and approval of that. So.
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you. Next is Don Schwartz, engineering. Don?
Thank you, Mayor. Very quick, a small report. The Rocky Fork Rehab Project just had signatures this evening from the mayor and Attorney Nolensville. We'll get those back to the contractor and hold a pre-construction meeting. Given the season, it's unlikely we'll start that project until late March, early April, when the asphalt plants are operating again. And the weather's a little more conducive to actually doing that kind of work. But we'll prepare ourselves for that. And we will also discuss with them the potential for a change order to incorporate those turn lanes in terms of overlays. I don't like it for the Whitmore. I believe the Brewery is going to be adequate, but the Whitmore we could incorporate it. And that'd be a small contract amendment with them to do that, just material really. Well, we will discuss that at pre-construction. There's also some damage, as you probably all know, so those who drive out that way. We had a severe base failure take place. And Nolensville College Road had a water leak in the area. It was actually, the water leak was downhill, but they suspect it was being forced upwards by the pressure of the water coming out of the pipes. Whether or not that played a role in the base failure is hard to say. We've got base failures up and down Rocky Fork. That's why we're in the rehab project we're in. But they did assist us and remove that bad asphalt and dug it, replaced it with stone, and then backed crusher on as a temporary measure. And I understand that Public Works have had conversations with the county. I'll let Kyle speak to that. I've not been involved in that, to come out and do a temporary repair, but I don't know the schedule on that. And then lastly, we have again advertised for a part-time position in the engineering department. We're getting just a trickle of applications. I probably need to get the chief to advertise for me. She's a lot more likely getting people in than we are, but I think we may be able to find an applicant out of the pool that we're currently advertising for the codes department. We have a number of individuals there that I looked at that I think we could probably bring them into our side, the engineering, assist Sarah and I in engineering and planning inspections. And hopefully use one of theirs, they're not going to select. So we're still working on that.
One question for Don.
Go ahead, yes.
What old Clovercroft on the north side, close to the sidewalk, that we repaired about a year ago, that's in dire need of additional repair?
It is in dire need. We have a number of locations that are in dire need, and we can have Public Works talk to the county about doing that repair again. They were the ones who did the last repair in there for us, where that asphalt had slumped down towards the
I
road.
don't think the county did, but I may be wrong. I think we got an outside.
I'm sorry, you're correct. That was part of the Sam Donald Road contract. You're right. I was thinking the other location in Clovercroft Road. But we can talk to them about doing that as well. But it's going to come down to a function of triage. I was talking earlier this evening with our attorney, and we've got roads, Kid Road, Old Clovercroft Road, that are coming apart, as well as Rocky Fork Road.
You name it.
I'm worried about, well, you know, many of these roads were never designed. They were taken in by the town during the corporation. They were just old county roads. In fact, down here on Rocky Fork Road, I was there with water department cut it open. And, it was stone and there was maybe 4 inches of old chip seal, just oil and stone. Compressed over the years, that's what built up most of the asphalt out there. With an overlay of asphalt, this is no way to build a road, especially when you have a high volume truck traffic we're experiencing with the construction boom. So many of these roads are never designed or built to accommodate modern traffic, and as a result, they're coming apart pretty quickly. And it's going to become a function of what can we afford to fix. We're maxing out our State Street 80 each year on different projects. And then you know where we've also maxed out our roadway impact fee program, although that cannot be used for maintenance. But it's simply a function of limited funding. But we will continue to practice triage on the worst sections. And we can have the county look at that and see if the cost would be then got repaired as well.
Can I follow up with one more thing? The Rocky Fork Road project was in our budget from January, February, when we started talking about it. I would like to see this coming year, whatever we decide is our next project with State Street funds, to be ready to go in July or August instead of waiting until the next year, basically, because we lose 6 or 7 months. I mean, whatever project we come up with the budget in the budget process, I would like to see us try to get that started July, August, or September.
There's no reason we can't do that.
Any other questions for Don? It's a tough question, Don. Good job.
And we basically, sorry,
Go
jump in.
ahead. Sorry.
As far as the third phase of Sunset, we basically have a lot of the preliminary work done for that.
You see them from Bennington to the west?
Yeah.
We have very preliminary work done. We haven't really put any real engineering expense into that yet.
It's at least been looked at, it's at least been looked at by the engineers.
It has, but very preliminary. I mean, there's really, you're not quite starting from scratch. You're not far from it.
Is Sunset Road on schedule, Don?
Yes, it is. It's actually going quite well. We've had limited problems over there, and it is on schedule. And
What about the one gentleman that come in and talked about the one tree?
that was a tree that was removed by the Middle Tennessee Electric Membership
Yes.
Corporation. And they decided to go out and compensate him for that tree. There was some question as to whether or not they actually had to do so, but they chose in good faith, good public relations to go out and compensate him for it.
It's been taken care of.
It has been taken care of to his satisfaction.
Very good, thank you. Next on our agenda is fire department. Brian, you made it on time.
I did, thank you. I was able to adjust my schedule. First of all, I apologize up front.
Shortcut, I guess.
What's that, sir?
You could have taken a shortcut.
I would, but Rocky Fork was too rough.
Oh.
I had to come down and cut through the neighborhood. I'm kidding, I was coming down Battle Road, so I did cut through the
It's a good
neighborhood.
start to your report.
Okay, first of all, I apologize for my voice. I've been dealing with this all winter long, just allergies. And I don't have an assistant yet, so I can't blame somebody else for not having a sheet. I grabbed the jump drive, and for some reason it was the incorrect jump drive. So I'll do my best to do the facts and figures without it up on the board. This past month has been really busy. We ran a total of 83 calls for the month of December, and we're starting to see that we're already well above that this month. Back at 5:30 this afternoon, we ran our 10th call of the month. It's the third day. So in the month of December, we had 5 fire calls. Just to let you know, those are all 5 actual fires. One was a county fire that happened just a little while ago over in Burke Hollow. The other 4 were 2 vehicle fires, one of them being next to a house, an actual house fire that was a heating stove or a fireplace in the house, and then another one was a kitchen-related fire. Again, the emergency medical incidents are our fastest growing. We had 43 of those for the month, 7 MVCs, which actually, believe it or not, maybe the congestion is a good thing. That's a relatively low number if you think about the amount of traffic that comes through Nolensville, especially with schools and so forth. So maybe some of the congestion is a good thing, because we don't run as many, accidents as you would think we do with the traffic. Again, we have a lot of seniors that have moved to the area, so our citizen assist numbers are constantly growing, with a 12 for the month. False alarms, good intent calls, things where we get called out where they're not actually emergencies, but alarm systems have activated and so forth, we're a total of 9. And then just miscellaneous calls for a total of 7. So it's 83 calls for the month. Just to give you an idea of where we're looking at numbers, this time last year, on the very last call of 2017 was number 573. The last call for 2018 was 667. That's about a 15% increase in 1 year. That's a pretty sizable increase. I think we're going to see that exponentially growing each year as our population increases and so forth. Here you'll see that there was a total committed hours of training and service for 1,144 hours. So that's a lot of time dedicated by people in this community. As you know, there's technically only one paid member of our department that's a cooperative with the county, so that's all volunteer hours, and his hours are not counted in that. So I think we're pretty fortunate we have such a dedicated group of volunteers that help serve the community. A couple topics I wanted to address as the fire chief is, I'm not sure how we can go about this. I've tried to deal with this, and this seems to be the same organization that we're having growing pains with, but that's the water board. Over the last 2 months, we've had numerous water main breaks that have left Nolensville without fire hydrants. And when I asked them how I can be notified, I'm told that, well, we didn't know it either. And that's a major, major issue for us, because I have to make calls to get resources moved into the Nolensville area to be able to provide water if the hydrant system's down. And I've tried to talk to them, and I think maybe that's something that we might have to have another meeting along the lines and say, I don't think it's that difficult, because our crews are getting paged to go out and dig up the water main, break and fix it. So I would think somehow we could get our dispatch center tied into that paging system or notification system, but I seem to be running into a blockade with that. And when I do know that there's a water main break, I instantly call and we move resources into Nolensville during the time. But that seems to be an ongoing problem that I've been trying to address, and it's just not moving forwards. Last month I had to leave. I had an engagement right after the meeting, and I understand there was some discussion on residential sprinklers. The only thing I want to say on that is that in my official policy on that, my official commitment is that I think that we should be proud as a town this size that we have taken the stand and moved ahead to be progressive by, requiring residential sprinklers to be put in the town. And as a career firefighter, the dangers really now are the smoke. Everybody thinks about people burning up in a fire, but that's not really the dangers. The dangers in today's modern houses are the toxic smoke. And as a career firefighter, we're seeing that with health-related issues in our profession. And what a sprinkler does is it puts out a water current that helps keep that smoke down and helps your family get out. So I think I want to ask that before we start talking about that particular item, that we spend some time educating you as the leaders of this town to make sure that we all understand what residential sprinklers really do. And that I think that they are something that we should work to keep in place and progress the system rather than look at taking it out. And that was just a stand that I have. Other than that, our call volume is definitely something we're watching. We're getting busier. We're holding true right now. We're doing okay, but again, it's constantly increasing.
Thank you. Questions for Brian? Chief Moe?
This may be more for the mayor, but what is the status of the fire hydrant maintenance?
We've got a meeting scheduled next Tuesday, I believe.
The 8th.
Yes.
And there's, frankly, and I'd suggest on the 8th, you're welcome to come as well, and maybe address their board directly. We went to their last meeting, that being the Nolensville College Road Utility District, and had their follow-up discussion. And they're contemplating a one-time 50% match to go through and have the hydrants exercised. I've asked the attorney, and he hasn't had a chance to follow up with their attorney about the ownership of the hydrants. We are certainly told that those hydrants, like the water lines, are the property of Nolensville College Road Utility District. That being the case, can entity of the state undertake operational and capital expenditures for the benefit of an independent and separate organization under the state. Whether we should is a whole different issue. Whether we legally can in Tennessee is something to be further explored. For what it's worth, I think it hit the mayor and I cold that that was sort of a take it or leave it 50% one-time approach.
Yes,
And then going forward in the future,
Yeah.
the implication was you'll have to deal with it.
And that's why we've invited Bob to go with us. Take the boy along with us and let them tell him that, so we'll see.
Yep. But I would encourage you
I'll
to
attend
go to the
the
meeting
meeting.
and address the board directly, and
You're welcome to go with us.
you're welcome to carpool.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do we have any idea what would be the cost if we were to take that on?
On an annual basis, no. Because also, when you bid that out, you may not find the same parties interested in doing it each and every time. For instance, we now have Jarrett Construction working on Sunset Road, and they're in proximity. So there, for example, is some interest. You know, it's circumstantial.
But we have asked them that question.
Yeah.
And at our last meeting, we expected an answer, but we did not. They weren't prepared to give us one.
Right. Well, they have info now, and now we'll go back. And of course, that's the bigger question too, is if in fact legally you can undertake that, do you want to every year as a budget line item have that in? And that's part of what I'm sure we'll be discussing if, well, depending on that, the legality of the answers in our upcoming sessions.
And Mr. Adams, just a quote, I don't hold me 100%, but I'm thinking that when we talked to private contractors, it was somewhere $125 to $135 per hydrant, which is, when you took the number of hydrants that we have in this area, that's a very large amount. And I was surprised it was that expensive.
I mean, we have.
Well, I've never been able to get that full number because, see, there's some things that come into Brentwood, but I think when we looked, and again, don't hold me, but off the top of my memory, I was believing it was somewhere around 280, 300 somewhere with what was projected. Does that sound about right? Yeah,
It sounds about what they were contemplating.
I was thinking a little more, but.
Yeah, well, and again,
It's in that ballpark.
yeah, because I mean, with so many that are being put in with the new neighborhoods, it's obviously it's increasing. It doesn't take much to increase that number by 100. But I think when we initially started looking at this, and I talked to Mike Polson over at the board, I believe it was right around 280 or 300, because I was thinking that, you know, we're looking at a lot of money to exercise hydrants.
$41,000
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, so.
That's why we
And growing.
And growing
Very
quickly.
serious discussions with them.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll plan on doing everything I can to attend that meeting on the 8th, and, you know, again, this is a growing pain that we'll just keep chipping at, and we'll eventually find a solution, so until then, we'll put things in place to make sure the town's protected.
Thank you.
And I will just say, I guess as a closing comment, we did ask them about the possibility of adding the cost of that onto the bill for those getting the water, which then would be a direct offset. Because let's say you're on another service, although by and large that's not the case for most everybody here, then you're not having resources utilized for something that you're not benefiting from. But we haven't gotten a lot of traction in terms of that idea as of yet.
Yeah, they weren't overly excited about that.
Well, and what I found is I spent a day up with the TDEC assistant director, and what I found is that the state law insulates them greatly. As a utility, they're very, very insulated by the state law under TDEC. So again, they're almost like, hey, sorry, but you know, we're insulated. So this will be resolved. It's just going to take us a little time to find our way through. So, but I absolutely believe that we'll get to this in time. It's just we'll keep chipping along at it until we get there.
That's what I think.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
So Jason, you did the math on that. What was it? Was it about 45?
45,000.
Okay, I mean, that seems like something we could solve quickly. We have a project that is going to be great with the historic district that we're spending $125,000 on, where we have safety issue with the fire hydrants. It just seems like that's a priority problem. I'd like to get that.
Well, the other part of that too, Derek, is that once you start paying for it, you also accept responsibility for it. And that's a liability that the town, as Brian is nodding his head, a liability that the town would have to give serious consideration before we would. I don't disagree with you. Is that number, does it represent a large percentage of our overall budget? Not necessarily, but I think it goes further than that in terms of what Kim was talking about with ownership, with liability. Once we take that on, that ship has sailed.
And just to let you know, I mean, and I'm sorry, I'll come back up to the microphone. One of the reasons for going to TDEC and spending time was to make sure I understood the law. And basically, just to refresh you, because you may have not been involved at that time, the law basically says that they're required to put them in. But once they put them in, they're not required to maintain them. They're required to maintain the water lines that feed them. But basically, when that T comes off to go up to the fire hydrant, the way the state law reads is that they're not responsible except for the very last hydrant on any branch. So what happens is, and I have to agree with the liability, is you're right. In the big picture, $40,000 is not a huge, overwhelming number, but I have to agree with Jason with this is, at what point then do we assume all responsibility? Does that mean when a car comes down and hits one and it breaks it off, is it the town's responsibility to pay to have that repaired? Or if the fire department goes out and black flushes water and creates a problem, is that, it gets into a much bigger problem, and I haven't been convinced yet by their approach that they're really willing to work with this, and I think it's a very gray area that we have to be careful treading on until we get it defined. So I will say that I want to be careful. As a chief, I would be concerned about taking on that responsibility so we have it clearly defined what the law says and really what it means, because no offense, Bob, no wonder you guys make so much money. After reading that for a day, it's so convoluted the way it's written, but basically it says, hey, they're only responsible for the very last hydrant.
That's why we're taking Bob with us on the,
Yeah.
we're working on it. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's the unintended consequences. It sounds like such a simple solution, and I don't disagree, but then you start peeling back the layers, and it can get quite complicated, and we can open ourselves up to substantial liability in the future over what we think is just a $40,000 expenditure.
And I'll assure you again, like I did back then, we have adjusted our response pattern where that won't be an issue. We've changed up the order by which we dispatch equipment. We're requesting additional equipment. When we get there, we realize the hydrant's good, we'll cancel it. But I'm not going to put us back in that situation. So we've revamped how we're doing things to compensate if that's ever an issue. But I will tell you that I've seen them out working through Stonebrook and working on the hydrant. So I think it's getting better. It's just we have to make sure that it's a thorough getting better, not just kind of spot. As Don was saying, it's just maintenance. I want to make sure that we are doing this the right way. So, but I am watching it and I am keeping the track of it to see where we're at on it. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next up is Chief Parker with the police report. I think I recognize that we have a new officer in the room tonight.
Yes, sir, we do.
Is that going to be part of your report?
In latter parts of it, yes, sir.
Oh,
That's all right?
That's good.
All right. Good. I hate that Carly left. I wanted to publicly thank her for caring effort that benefited the police department. So we'll catch up to her later.
Worked out real well.
Yes. You see there the crash data on the front page of the report and up on the screen here where we were up 16 crashes over the month from last, up 5 to 16 over last month. Excuse me, for a total of 148 for the year, just up a tick from 2017. Into the new year, we want to try to do a better job of tracking time of day and weather conditions and see if we can figure out what the seesaw in our numbers might be. I don't know if that would help, but that might give us some indication as to what's better going on with our crashes seesawing back and forth. We've had a little bit of sickness run through the department. People have been out. Of course, the Christmas holidays, we had some people on vacation, so our stops data is down a little bit, and then we'll have the Christmas spirits, and not as many people getting traffic tickets in December. So, but you
I've
can
never
see,
gotten pulled over during Christmas. That's unfortunate.
Unfortunate for you.
Mine's always when everybody's hot and ornery outside, so.
You can see the breakdown of the violations, and off of the traffic stops, there were 3 arrests made, traffic-related arrests. Next page, the Tigers reporting. Again, that is the information we're required by the TBI to report each month. That was up several. Basically, over the Christmas holidays, I think we had a spat that everybody was in the house too long together. Had to separate a few family arguments. So, and if Alabama had lost the other night, Mayor, they probably got called in my house. So.
We'll watch out what happens Monday night.
Is that the all other, is that what that makes, is that the junk, right?
Yes, that's just miscellaneous.
Okay.
Different type incidents there. Dispatch incidents, you can see run fairly consistent down a little bit from the previous month. I think if my addition was correctly, we were over 11,000 for the year. That's everything that we were involved in, including dispatch calls, traffic stops, everything that an officer takes time to do in his daily duties. And our mobile data systems are helping us track that much better and much more specifically, and enables us to do a lot better job with that. So, Criminal Investigation Division, you can see the last couple of months our numbers are down as far as newly assigned cases. That does not mean that we haven't been busy following up on existing cases. And in fact, over the last few weeks, officers have recovered one stolen vehicle and 2 stolen motorcycles worth over $35,000 reported value. We also recovered some stolen property belonging to people in Metro Nashville and returned that property to them as well. To people as far as as Bellevue, same bad guys using here, people over at Bellevue and other parts of Nashville. So don't think that the crime is relegated to Nolensville. It's a widespread problem that we're dealing with from time to time. So, in addition, the officers participated in 104 hours of training this month to get in their post requirements and do some extra things that Sergeant Turns and I felt like were necessary. And I want to say one thing, that Sergeant Turns is doing a heck of a job in coordinating the training. He's got a training regimen set out next year for accomplish all of our required training in-house and make it Nolensville specific to our needs, the way that we do things, instead of sending them here, there, and yonder, and they might get a little bit of information that might relegate to us, but this way we'll make sure everything is Nolensville specific, and I think we'll have a lot better product with an officer on the street. So you might remember that last October, Big Cunningham left us and went to the private sector, but we've done some interviews and some advertising, and Sergeant Turns is going to introduce our new officer tonight.
Mr. Mayor, Chairman Altman, I'd like to bring forward and present our new peacekeeper and protector of our community. This is Officer Dylan Couch. He is a graduate of the Cannon County High School, what, 2012? Okay. Got his bachelor's degree in 2017 and then completed the academy in 2018. He since worked for the Cannon County Sheriff's Office, and we were lucky enough to get him hired here. So he's our newest addition. We expect to see him on the street in about the next 2 months. So. Also, I got to mention, is expecting his first child, you and Jim. So be a dad. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Here?
No, she is not. She is at home. She's got some kind of congestion going on, all that good stuff.
So pregnant.
Yes, that's correct.
Very big.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Next up is Cal, Public Works Department. How you doing, Cal?
Doing good.
Walking
Good
a lot
evening.
better.
Much better.
Good.
Before I get to the Public Works report, I just want to address the base failure on Rock 4. unfortunately, we were delayed on the repairs. Williams County is not back in session until January 7th. So I will be in contact with them on that date, and I will be getting this project coordinated to get the repairs done, because I know it's in dire need of repair. So with that out of the way, I will go to the Public Works Department report for the month of December. We had a total of 985 hours worked, 2,623 miles driven. We spent $522 on fuel. On blacktop, we spent $1,239, and that was 5,800 pounds of blacktop patch. We spent $151 on supplies, and the two major expenses that went into the supply cost for the month were $69 for air filters on the town hall HVAC system, as well as $56 of repairs on some lawn equipment we had. On vehicle maintenance for the month of December, we spent $57, and that was entirely on antifreeze to keep in stock at the shop. We use it for our public works vehicles as well as the police department vehicles. A couple items from the last month's BOMA that I was working on. Larry, you had talked about bike lanes for Oldham. We went out and measured the road. That is a go. We've already been in contact with the striping company. We're just waiting for them to come out and do that. Jason, you had mentioned the Nolensville sign close to Miko's. We've taken a look at it, and what we are going to be doing is repainting it once we get closer to summer and it warms up a little bit. So we'll get that cleaned up and looking much better. And one last thing, Brian Snyder had mentioned, we have a traffic light housing at the intersection of Rocky Fork and Nolensville Road. It's badly bent. We've determined that we are not going to be able to fix that ourselves, so what we're going to be doing is replacing that, which should be something that we'll be able to do ourselves.
Good.
Any questions?
On Oldham, could you black out the yellow stripe in the middle of the road?
With the striping company already coming out, that's certainly something I can ask about. I don't see why not, but it's definitely something I'll talk to them
Not
about.
that big a deal, but it is just.
It's a bit of an annoyance, I understand.
Any other questions for Kyle?
You're always so thorough, Kyle.
I try to be.
Love that.
That's what I'm here for.
So much better than you.
Y'all have a good night.
Thank you, Kyle. Next is Historic Commission. Betty?
We do not have a meeting, but we have one scheduled for next week, where things probably will be settled on the house.
Yes.
So, I think we'll have good things to report at the next one.
Thank you very much. Next is town events. Brian?
Yeah, sorry, no updates.
No updates?
They have this month off.
Y'all got a meeting coming up
very soon.
Very soon. Yeah, I realize that.
Is that the 4th of July meeting?
Start with the 4th of July, yes.
But the North Pole experience was, I understand, great. I was out of town, so.
We missed you.
It was wonderful.
Take our word for it. It was great.
It was great. And I realize there's a lot of people there and it can get crowded, but we use the resources we have. And I thought it turned out wonderfully. All the new decorations and new things that our partners helped us with were excellent. And other than one person saying, this is too crowded, everybody else, the other 99.9% seemed to really enjoy it. So it's
great job.
Good job, Brian. Next, Cruising Trails. Patty, good to see you.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
All right, I don't have much to report. I actually have a couple questions. So probably the biggest news is we have moved our committee meeting from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. In hopes of making it a little bit easier for folks who are working outside the town limits of Nolensville to join us. So we're hopeful that that will allow a couple of our highly valued committee members to be able to join us more regularly. We've really appreciated the codes update, and the consultants that you all are working with are incredibly knowledgeable, and we've really have valued their input. They've also been pretty complimentary of what we already have too. So
Well,
we're
of
not
course.
we're not throwing it all out and starting over.
We're very proud too.
So that's good. In fact, he made some comments about our tree list that looked like I've never seen one quite so detailed and specific or something like that. But we dug into it and it was good stuff. So the two questions that I have, and Don may speak to this, the sidewalk. Yay, we finally got that down Stonebrook. I know how much effort that has been for Don and for everyone, and it's just such a great addition, not just because my family uses it, but we've seen a lot of people out. I'm assuming that the striping on the road and the signs of like bike lane and no parking haven't happened yet because of weather. Is that true?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, so that was that one. And then secondly, we have this connection from Britton Downs to the back of Sunset School. And many years ago, it was decided when we constructed the Safe Routes grant on Stonebrook, we would construct that because of issues we've had with the county on the turn lane and Sunset Road, and I could go on. That didn't happen. So I just want to know, I've been asked to attend the Britton Downs Homeowners Association meeting this next quarter, and I want them to know that we care about this connection. We want to make this happen for their families, for their students at Sunset. And do we have any update on whatever back and forth we may be having with the school district?
Well, I can tell you it's on our radar. Don, you want to explain where we're at with the?
I'll be glad to.
Okay.
Superintendent Mr. Looney responded this afternoon that they are discussing, and they will take care of the turn lane issue and commitment, but their CFO is out until Monday, so it hasn't been discussed or solidified as to whether any of the sidewalk projects we've talked to them about are going to be part or not of that commitment. One of the discussions that we endeavored to move to the forefront is obviously with the Sunset Road project, having all the multimodal improvements, not having an opportunity for people then to go from that area all the way up to the school.
Absolutely. No, there's two huge holes with Sunset,
Yes.
right? There's the back
Right.
and the front, and we've held both of these up
Right.
to the school district.
So
Yes.
I really do not know whether they're going to go beyond the turn lane commitment or not, because obviously they're still working on the financial piece with their CFO. But at least the good news is we have that commitment on the turn lanes, but the other is pending as to whether it will or won't happen. As of this evening, I don't have any further.
I could be wrong on this, and please correct me. I did not think we were having the school district pay for the connection specifically from Britton Downs to Sunset School. That was something that either we were using our Williamson County infrastructure dollars to pay for, but that was something that as the town, we were paying for.
Well, when you're doing a project like that, obviously there's an economy of scale.
Yes.
If you're building a sidewalk from Sunset all the way up to that school, that's a much larger piece than the back end.
Yes, which was why the back end was going to be constructed with the Stonebrook project to leverage the economy of scale.
I remember that whole conversation.
So,
That's right. You're right.
I'm going to be pleasantly persistent about this until you all tell me
As well you should.
not to.
Oh,
So-
absolutely. And we hope that we'll get some good news on that, but there's no way of knowing.
That was why we made the county aware of their, obviously, improvements on Sunset. And we were also getting the sidewalk from Sunset to the school. And that's why we tried to include this with that project. And
It would be
right now,
nice.
we just don't have an answer.
No, all we know is fortunately they're gonna honor their commitment on the turn lanes, and that's all we know as of this day.
Well, we'll keep working.
Absolutely.
Did you get a reach out from a Girl Scout?
I did.
Good.
She's lovely.
Do you think that would be
We've corresponded a
possibility?
little bit. I mean, I don't see, so we had a lovely Girl Scout reach out to us about potentially putting it's a library, but I don't want to steal her thunder, so I don't want to present all of this to you.
It's a give a book, take a book.
Give a book, take a book, and she's asked if we could do it in the trailhead parking lot, which was why she reached out to me. So she's asked for a little bit more information about Mrs. Dennett, so I'm connecting her with Commissioner Louders to get some more information on there. And then I've asked her to please come to our committee meeting and present to the committee. And then when I have something, we'll make sure you all are aware and we'll.
I hope it was okay that I got initial contact and I said, well, maybe this would be a possibility, especially with the connection and family and incorporated all together.
I think it's a good location.
Aesthetically, it seems like it would go well there. So, I don't know. Well, good. I'm so glad. I've been checking my email to see if she would respond. I'm glad she reached out.
Yes.
That's great. How neat.
Thank you very
And
much.
I should have a map next month. So.
Good.
Thank you for the report. Next on our agenda is second and final reading of ordinance 18-08, an ordinance to approve a master concept flood plan and rezone the Harmon Henry property between Rocky Fork Road and York Road from the state's residential to suburban residential with a planned unit development overlay. I think initially I'll hold off with a motion. There's several questions, and I know the board has questions. So who's going to be on the hot seat up here? Oh, Wes. Chris is coming also, I think.
Wes, how do we beat you up so often?
I guess I just like punishment. I don't know. I'm Wes Harris with Ray Smith. As the mayor just mentioned, here to represent the rezoning of the Harmon Henry property. Just briefly, it's been a while since first reading, but you guys had some concerns about traffic calming and whatnot internal to the subdivision. We did add a couple roundabouts along that proposed collector there to address those concerns. And here's the kind of final rendition of the plan here. We did end up splitting the entrance on York Road, and that's primarily because we got out there doing the survey and found a cemetery. And site distance and everything, we kind of had to come in that area, and so we split around that cemetery, so that's the reason for that change. But as far as the layout goes and everything, I believe we heard what you said at the last meeting and addressed those concerns.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, I believe that you guys probably have some questions and things you'd like to bring up with me, so.
I think we'll probably focus on one.
Well, I think one question that started, and we all have a copy of the traffic impact study conclusions. And our main concern, or at least my main concern, is traffic signal at Nolensville Road and York Road, Williams Road. The traffic impact study indicates that we need a traffic signal there now, even before we start development in this development. I believe that's to be the case. Chris, is that right?
Yes, sir. Hey, Christopher Smith with Smith Group. What might be helpful, since it has been several months, is we have our traffic engineer here. Maybe if you can give us some bullet points of the high points of the traffic analysis that's done, and then that may be a good catalyst to kick off the discussion on that, if that would be okay.
Any problems with that? Okay.
She speaks engineer much better than I do.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Giordano with Reagan Smith. I'm one of the traffic engineers that worked on this traffic study. So first, wanted to just give a little background of what we did with our traffic study. We analyzed the existing scenario, background development scenario, which includes 9 approved projects in the vicinity of the project, as well as a with project scenario. And we looked at this for 5 different study intersections in the area. First, we looked at, on-site, we looked at our access points for the project, and we determined that no turn lanes were warranted based off of the projected traffic that we had calculated. At 4 of the 5 study intersections, we determined, or we looked at the capacity analysis. We looked at the level of service. Level of service is rated from A to F, A being acceptable and very good, and F failing. At 4 of the study intersections, we are operating at level of service C with all the projected traffic. However, York Road at Nolensville, we are currently failing in existing traffic conditions as well as with the projected traffic. Anyone that's kind of driven over there kind of probably already knows that. We looked at traffic signal warrants based off of national resources. Based off of the traffic volumes and the speed limit that's out there, 40 miles per hour, we do not meet the traffic signal warrants. However, based off of the crash history there, we do meet signal warrants. TDOT has agreed with that point, those findings. Don has agreed with that and for their two-step engineering, or he has received a letter with those findings. So since a traffic signal warrant is not warranted based off of the traffic volumes, we have determined that an always stop control will help alleviate some of the traffic issues that are occurring there. The always stop control will, based off of the existing traffic volumes, will help alleviate it to level of service D, which a lot of areas find it to be acceptable level of service. However, in about 3 to 5 years, with all the projected traffic that is occurring in Nolensville, it is expected to go to level of service F, which failing, without the Henry property even having any traffic added to that. So those are some of the little points there. In addition to installing the always stop control, the Henry property will be contributing the road impact fee portion that they need to based off of their single family units, which is about $1.15 million. And they will also be based off of the new major thoroughfare plan that the town has developed in November of last year, or sorry, 2 years, a year and a half ago. They will be doing a collector road, which typically through the property in the north-south, they will only need to do a local roadway section, but they will be doing a typical collector road section based off of this new plan. So basically, that is it. We do understand that York Road and Nolensville will be failing. York Road at Nolensville will be failing, but we will install an always stop control to help alleviate that situation. But in about 3 to 5 years, it is expected to start failing again. Any questions?
Yeah, I think it will be a question.
Can I just a little bit? The always stop is a stopgap measure. Obviously, everybody prefer the traffic light, and Don has submitted the town's traffic study from T-Square to the state to get the state involved with installing the traffic light there. And we are also helping to pursue that light with the state. I say that to say that the long-term plan is to have the traffic light there, not the four-way stop, and that we, under the conditions that intersection's under with the crash warrant stuff, Reagan Smith consults with the state on these matters, and due to that condition, we expect the state to expedite this project a little quicker than what they would normally do because of the crash warrant being there. And so, that being said, I'll turn it over to Christopher Smith, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate that was a temporary before we stop. So, but it does improve the intersection in the interim while we're getting the stoplight, the traffic light.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I think our initial discussions, or Ray Smith's initial discussions with TDOT was that they were expecting to foot the bill for 50 to 80% of the improvements on that intersection. We've approached 3 different entities within TDOT. They have been open to it. We thought instead of that we could work in conjunction with the town to hasten the improvement. We see the need for that improvement, so we thought we would jump into and basically get it on either end, figure out, where we kind of meet in the middle. Of course, with all these things, time is something that, unfortunately, these kind of improvements take time, and that's where we did an analysis and a plan and actually a pricing of a 4-way stop. Because sometimes these things can take months and years, that's something that can impact safety today or within the next 6 months.
Who wants to start?
What is the cost of putting a light there?
The cost of
$576,841.17.
Yes, sir.
Roughly.
Okay, I know that the stoplight, I'm gonna put this with your other project, it's one thing that the school's looking at. You're not gonna get the schools behind y'all to get that stoplight, but they're looking at that, they're also looking at that sidewalk that's coming off the other project, it's a crosswalk that you agreed to that was good.
Yes, sir.
I think we've covered that. Your projects, look good, but my main concern is something that, this is the sore point we made. Every road in Nolensville is a 2-lane road. There are no sides to them, no curves. There's ditches or trees. Every traffic study that comes in here says these roads do not require turn lanes. Or they don't require this, or they don't require that. We're dumping subdivisions on these 2-lane roads, 200-300 houses or more. That's doubling the amount of traffic every time one of these developments comes in. You've already heard our roads are in bad shape. Tommy's alluded to it. Don's alluded to the amount of traffic that's up here. The roads are in bad shape. When does it take, as a town, to take a stand to start requiring turn lanes or some kind of help with these roads coming in to alleviate some of the problems with traffic? I know you've got your weak points, your good points. When I moved to Nolensville, we could play basketball in the middle of the road and not worry about being hit. Times have changed. This town is still controlled. We're over 11,000 people. We've got subdivisions coming in every day that just keep adding to these roads that say do not require traffic, turn lanes. We need help in this town, and as a town, to the citizens of that town, we should take a stand. We need the turn lanes. We need some kind of appropriate action to each entrance to all these subdivisions to help alleviate the traffic, whether there's 0 at certain hours or there's 5,000 at the other hours. There's some way we need to eliminate this traffic. Now that's a sore point with me that we need to take a stand on some way or another. I know y'all paying fees for some parts of this, but it's beginning to be a headache, and people keep driving and half-heartedly talking about, the traffic in Nolensville. Well, the traffic's in Nolensville, whether it's at midnight, 0, or in the early mornings and peak hours, when it's backed up all the way to Kidd Road or beyond, where it's coming out of Tri-Unit this way backed up. We've got to have help. I mean, as a board, I'm talking myself, but as a board, I think we should take some kind of action of some kind to help with the traffic department in this town.
Yes, sir. And I think y'all have been proactive. And an example of that is your impact fee for each house of over $4,500, which a lot of other municipalities don't have. So I think
to speak.
Yes, sir. So I do think in a lot of ways you have been proactive as a board. You know, when we go in and look at the design, we use our engineers to do an analysis that is a requirement. And we're more than happy to have our engineers put together a traffic analysis. And based upon those, you know, recognized standards is how we come up, or how they, not me, I'm not smart enough, I just read it and kind of do what they say. But how to act to go forward. And so based upon that, that is our guide. That is how we react and plan accordingly.
I can understand that with the impact fees and stuff like that, but we keep hearing, we don't want to get into the road business. We don't get to do into that. We accept the road the impact fees, but then at a certain time, then the town becomes responsible for becoming road builders and improving the entrances into the town. But at the same time, we say we do not want to be into that business. That's the reason I keep saying something about these turn lanes.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Vaughn, so I'm a little surprised, and I have generally been a proponent of, there's a reason why there are traffic engineers, and Don, and you, and other people that are obviously educated in these areas. And Larry, you've heard me say, if the report says this is what we should do, we need to be consistent across the board and follow it. I'm a little surprised on this one, because there's 251 homes, call it minimum 500 cars, probably more, on a road that already has school traffic, amongst other things. I'm a little shocked that there wouldn't be turn lanes on this project, especially when I look at the other projects around town.
Whitmore, like 65.
I mean, even, I don't know, and I'm going back a ways now, but Bennington as a standalone, or Winterset Woods as a standalone, I don't remember how many homes are in there, but probably similar in size, where we have, you know, we're not those two. I'm thinking, what am I thinking of? Whitmore and, it's escaping now. Sunset Park. That's what I'm thinking, Sunset Park, where we do have turn lanes. And so I'm a little perplexed on that one. That's the first thing. Sure. More of a comment. The second one, I want to make sure I understand, the two of you gave, the three of you gave this explanation on the front end of the four-way stop that would have signalization, right, blinking lights. And then you also gave the cost of the full traffic light and these studies and what they're saying. Can I just make sure I understand, you're saying your intent is to begin with the stopgap solution with the ultimate intent of being a part of a full traffic solution? Your intent is to do that, your company's intent.
Yeah, I mean, our intent and the company's, I mean, I'll tell you, Old Smith is Old Smith.
Okay.
So it's just, it's us. So our intent is to come in. We see a need in the community. That's an impact.
Michael.
Yes, sir. We see a need in the community. It's an impact. It's an impact to all the folks that live in our neighborhood is that intersection. And there is, there can be a danger there. We know that part of that, it's a very complex issue, because you have impact fees and you have traffic studies and you have state routes and you have who pays for what and how much are you contributing for this, and you know, you have, with an impact fee you have an over and above an additional. So we said, well, okay, we know long term there's a need for that intersection improvement, and we play a role in that. I think our neighborhood Telfair plays a 12% role in that, and then this neighborhood plays a 12%. Just to come back a little bit on the turning lane issue, I think the traffic analysis on this project is a little different because you have two main roads on either side of it. So you have Rocky Fork and you have York versus a Telfair. You know, Telfair, there's a single road. It kind of is what it is. But then again, like I said, I don't run the map. I just write the check for the report.
but it's also a collector. I mean.
It is.
And I think that changes things as well.
Yes, sir.
Because you're certainly gonna have, and which is why by the way, let me start with the positive, right? Really have come a long ways in terms of that road with the roundabouts, and I actually like the split at York. That's really gonna help, because I was very concerned, and in our earlier discussions about this just becoming a straightaway cut through, especially for the school. So I think this helps a lot, but it's still gonna be utilized, certainly.
Yes. And so overarching, and our goal is to get a project zoned and forward. And in order for us to get it zoned and forward, we need to address safety issues that are going to affect our residents and residents of the town, then we need to play a role in that solution. What we'd like to do is get TDOT. I mean, I will tell you today, I would love for TDOT to write the check for 100%. We're not there yet on that. And so we know we need to play a role in facilitating that. I don't know what that role eventually will be. That role may be a 50%, a 20%, or a, but in our discussions, we said, hey, how much is that? The one role I know we can't play is the role of the builder, because we are not a municipal entity that can condemn land or make system improvements that are over and above on state or local roads. I think that's the role of a municipality or a state entity to do so. Our role may be more of a financial contributor.
What about we've had these discussions before, right, about the county?
Well, about the county being a participant.
Being a participant because of the traffic that's
And even
contributed.
Summerlin was a participant with a contribution.
Right, about trying to put together a whole team of contributors.
That's right.
Have we had those discussions yet, or are they on the docket?
Summerlin has already made a contribution.
I was talking about the
County?
school system. Has that come about at all? Have we even talked about that?
There's been discussion, but there's no commitment.
No commitment.
Have we had discussed it with them?
There has been discussion with them, I think, on a level of up to 10%.
Yeah, we
And
try to
with
get
regard to
it.
the state, there's, as has been indicated tonight, discussion, but nothing affirmatively.
Nothing affirmative. I believe the state is going to contribute and play a role in this. I do. Do I have a definitive letter from them? I would love. We tried really hard in the last month and a half, 2 months to be a partner in that, to try to get something out of them, so we could kind of have that as an addition to this zoning, which would make things a little bit easier or simpler, I guess. To no avail. They are very open. We meet the criteria. They're good folks to deal with. It's just not, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Anyway, we made Dale said something about kind of shook you a little bit about not having a turn lanes. But it's the same thing, you gotta look, there's a school on both sides.
Yes.
And it still does not, I'm having trouble comprehending how, with the shape our roads are in, and the amount of development that's going on, that they can come back and traffic study says that there's no turn lanes required. That's got me bugged. Your project looks good, but the safety aspect of it to me stinks.
May I ask the traffic engineer a question?
Sure.
Again, to Larry's point about turn lanes. The road on the intersection of Rocky Fork Road and the Collector Street on this plan. Now, if you go down a road about a half a mile, I would think the traffic numbers at this intersection would be low.
Are you talking about Rocky Fork where it meets York Road, or?
Rocky Fork where the collector is.
Or the
Your
proposed
collector.
Yes.
I would expect that the traffic counts on that road would be fairly low.
Yes.
You go a half a mile down the street, and if you had that same intersection a half mile to the west, the traffic counts would increase greatly. Is that right?
Yes, that is.
But this subdivision would be contributing to that, additional traffic, to that, high traffic volumes that are just to the west. Is that right?
Correct. That, from my understanding, and I didn't participate in the scoping of this, but I believe that intersection is in county. Is it not part of the town of Nolensville, or that intersection itself?
It is in the county, but the traffic from that intersection heads west, and it's from Rutherford County, and it's a lot of traffic. If you took this intersection and put it a half a mile down, just beyond that intersection, the traffic counts on Rocky Fork Road could be 20 times what you're seeing here. But what we have here is a road a collector that will contribute greatly to what's just to the west of it, impacting a number of subdivisions.
Well, I do want to point out that the peak hour trips for this product development for 251 units is only supposed to be about 250 trips during the PM peak hour.
Is that about
And that's
divided between
split.
York and Rocky Fork?
Well, that's split between them. We're estimating based off of the site plan of how the houses are laid out and all of that. We're estimating about 50-50 split between the two roads. So in the peak hour for 1 hour, 125 vehicles per possibly using Rocky Fork Road.
Is that only taking into account the residential component of this development? Does that take into account the fact that this is considered a collector road and will take on additional traffic from people that are navigating between Rocky Fork and York?
We did not analyze when the connection would be made. We just looked at how the road is existing today and how that collector will impact at the T intersections there.
I'm gonna add something to what the mayor said. That intersection he's talking about, just going a piece down the road, that's Rock Springs Road. You need to go down and take a look at that. Because even during the daylight hours, that is a bad road to try to come out on. The county, I hate to say it, the county needs to take a look at it because it needs to be striped or something. Because there's been some wrecks down there where people have pulled out too far to go west. And cars coming over the hill, they're in their lane. And it backs up. I go through there quite a bit. Rock Springs Road backs up. You go out Rocky Fork in the mornings, it's backed up. York Road is backed up. And these subdivisions the subdivisions that they're developed, it's not helping one bit. The biggest part of our the traffic coming through in the mornings is Rutherford County. And going back through in the afternoon, Rutherford County. For some reason, though, Rutherford County wants to go to Williamson County wants to go to Rutherford County. Hadn't figured that one out, but that's the problem we've got.
So on your new collector road intersecting York Road or Rocky Fork Road, what will be the level of service at the completion of your development?
At the completion of the development, it will be, I believe, level of service C or better. It is expected to be level of service B.
B.
B is in boy.
So you take Rocky Fork Road and York Road, its current level is a C.
Rocky Fork at where they intersect with
York.
Nolensville?
No, Rocky Fork at York Road,
Yes.
which is in the county.
Yes.
It's a level C
Yes.
already. So what do you project that to be at the end of your?
That is also projected to be level of service C.
So
So you're not going to have any impact on that intersection.
251
So-
homes left.
The level of service, it varies. It goes from, for a level of service C, it has a degree, so it varies. So existing is expected to be about 18.6 seconds of delay per vehicle. In the future, with the addition of the project, it is expected to be about 24.8 seconds. So yes, it will have an impact, but it will
not
still be
enough
the
to push it into a D
Yes.
category.
So it's gonna have a 25% impact ballpark.
Well, and that also includes the background developments, the 9 other approved projects that are in the area, and we estimate a 1% annual growth rate. So with all of that, yes, it's going to go from 18.6 to 24.8.
Don, can I put you on the spot for a second? You want to chime in? This is your area of expertise, and you hear what we're asking, you hear the information we're receiving. Do you have any thoughts, comments you want to add, especially on the turn lanes?
Well, yeah, on the turn lanes, there is a rather detailed analytical tool that's used to determine that need. It was based on set of guidelines developed by a man named Hartley years ago. And they've been refined since then. But basically, it looks at a number of factors. One, the speed on the road. But two, it also looks at the volume of left turns and what percentage that is of the overall traffic in that direction versus the opposing traffic. And you use a nomograph, you lay it out, and you develop a curve where the lane is warranted and outside of not warranted. And I've looked at their analysis, they all fall well with outside of the area for warranted left turn lanes using that particular tool, which it happens to be an industry standard tool to determine the need for right turn lanes, left turn lanes.
What about deceleration?
The right turn lanes are now analyzed, they also analyze those, and there was no need shown for that. The volumes out here they're considerable, but they're well below those with which point turn lanes are normally required, based on this particular analytical tool.
So this is the quandary this is what we've dealt with before, right? Do we go with what the industry standard analytical tools are and what they say, or do we make this arbitrary decision that, well, we don't care what your tool says, we're going to require a turn lane because that's what we think is right, which feels a little uncomfortable to me because I don't know anybody sitting up here as a traffic engineer. And I'm not comfortable saying that I think I know better than what you know or what you know, because it would be like somebody coming to me and saying that they know better than what I know about the things that I know about, which is not a lot. Go ahead, sorry. No.
Yeah, when I worked for Metro National, their Traffic and Parking Commission, we did have a policy that we enforced that, I don't recall the numbers, but non-residential developments, I think over 50,000 square feet on an arterial road, you put in a turn lane regardless.
Okay.
We didn't concern ourselves with harm lane. We got down to where we actually started putting these on collectors for developments of a certain size. That's a solution. It's not engineering based, but rather it's I guess it was a political answer.
So that would be something that we address as we go through the process we're going through now.
You can absolutely.
With our
you took the same
consultants.
You took the same steps on the requirement for traffic impact studies to begin with. We cut all those numbers in half. We went from 100 dwelling units requiring studies 50 dwelling units.
Right.
I think we went from 50,000 to 25,000 non-residential.
Right.
As a threshold at which point to require the traffic study.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so, as a political body, you have the right to determine if there's going to be a need for a policy that requires these turn lanes, regardless of what the engineering dictates. But I happen to be a strong believer in the engineering. They've been in existence. I know I've been using harmonics methods since the early 1980s. This is something that it existed well before then.
I'd be curious to know the Woodmore neighborhood. I mean, if we have this information, we may not off the top of our heads, but that 18 seconds to 24 seconds. I mean, do we have a comparison with Livermore? Because it's a lot smaller of a neighborhood, as they mentioned.
We have a traffic study upstairs for Whitmore subdivision, yes, sir. I don't recall what the numbers were. We get a lot of studies, yes, we do have the information. You can make the comparison.
And part of the issue on that one is its location compared to this.
Yes. Right, it makes a difference.
So here's my, Here's my question was, if I may. Trying to decide how to word this. I don't disagree with your concern, happens to be my concern. I think if we all are concerned about it. But are we putting the cart before the horse if we decide in this situation to say, which I realize, well, okay, we're discussing it, to say this is what we think you should do despite what the report says? Or do we wait until we've actually made a decision as a board to implement changes in how we're going to approach all development going forward? And then that's our mark where we say, this is now different. Because my discomfort is in starting on to say, okay, well, we're just going to do this one.
But that's the point of a PUD. That's our decision as a PUD. We can lay any stipulations on it that we want, regardless of the engineering study.
But the precedent we've set is that we have always followed it.
I don't know that, I think we probably required some turning lanes.
We have required turning
Did
lanes.
not engineering studies so.
In fact, we had one that, maybe they recused herself when they came back because they didn't have a traffic study. When they came back, yes, turn lanes were required. And we approved it then.
Did the traffic study take into account the growth?
Yes.
Did it take into account, and it's my understanding, and I may be wrong, that there is some additional property already under contract that could be added to this property?
Yes, we included 9 background developments that have been approved previously.
That has not been approved, that is under contract by potential developer.
That additional property is about 10 lots.
10 lots is 10 lots, that's another 20 or 30 trips. So it did not include that.
It did not, but it did include a 1%.
That's my problem. I mean, we've got somebody that's coming before us with a plan that's already got another piece of property under contract, and they don't include that in their study. So it's just piecemeal. You add another one, you add another one.
I know Don has a comment, I think, but I have felt the same angst over it because we know there's going to be this and this and this and this, but as a standalone, yes, it might not warrant it, but by the time we tack on this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece, it probably should have.
So that's where we need to be proactive on the front end.
And I'm not
I
disagreeing.
wanted one for Telfair, if you remember, and I know Chris remembers, I fought to get one for Telfair.
I get, and I don't disagree. I guess my question is, do we get policy in place first, or do we just decide on a case by case?
It's case
we
by
think you
case.
should, we think you shouldn't.
Case by case, it's a PUD. We can do whatever we want. If this was a standalone subdivision, it'd be a different question, but a PUD, we can require anything we want to on a PUD. It's not a case by case. A PUD, we can do whatever we want to whenever one comes in.
I know we can, but gosh, I would at least like to have some factual base to say this is why we would like to see it this way versus.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is if they went back out another traffic study and they come back.
Again, I'm playing devil's advocate. I agree with you. I'm just.
There's got to be a time. There's got to be a time and a place in this town. 2-lane roads, ditches and trees on both sides of it. Roads are falling apart. We just keep laying subdivision after subdivision. And we're not doing anything or having the developers do anything to help protect what the roads, even if it's just going into their property. From the traffic that's coming through.
The collector road that's proposed is going to open up as a C. I mean, why wouldn't we want it to open up as an A or B? Why are we?
It's only going to get worse. It will never get better.
Then I guess what we're saying here, we take the requirement for a traffic impact study out of the picture and just make our determination.
That's not exactly.
I think we use it as a guide. I don't think you take it out of the picture. I think we take it as a guide, and then we do what we want to do as a board.
But my only concern is that we're saying to the developer, we want you to spend this money on a traffic study, but we're going to toss it out the window if we don't like it. Why even make them spend the money? Why not just make a decision as a municipality?
Let's do that.
Because, I mean, additional costs we're putting on the developer.
The best argument I heard was that you're opening at a C and you're only getting worse. Why don't we make our roads an A? Why can't we open as an A?
I think perspective, maybe Don or.
Don's been
talk about
chomping at this.
It really is a big misleading. It's not like grades in school. The level of service D is a pretty good level of service in an area like this. Motors, you go into National, motors are thrilled to get a level of service D in an intersection. A, B, C are all relatively low delay. And level of service C is a pretty admirable goal for an intersection. It really is. And another point I'd like to make, I think they have accounted for those 10 lots. They've accounted for more than those 10 lots with a 1% growth factor. Just before the meeting started, I pulled up TDOT's annual average traffic daily count volume on Rocky Fork Road. It had a high of 7,600 vehicles per day in 2016. Same day in 2017, we're at 6,100. But what they're doing is they're taking a 1% annual compound. So they are figuring in those 10 lots, the other additional lots, pass through traffic, so they are accounting for that. Maybe not those 10 particular lots, but they have made accommodation for increases in traffic. But this level of service really is a hard thing to get a hold of. Most roads that we travel on, level of service D, level of service F, E, we're there already. Level of service D and E, we drive that every day. You come out here on Nolensville Road and it's BMP Tower, you're at a D or E.
Don't mean we like it or accept it.
No, I understand, but I'm saying level of service C is a pretty acceptable level of service. It's not like grades in school. You're not going to achieve a level of service A, these intersections and roadways.
But that's my problem, and maybe it's Jason. We listen to you, and you're a traffic engineer and a traffic expert, and what you say seems logical to me. How can we, as a board sitting up here, that none of us are traffic engineers, and we're arguing with people that have numbers in front of them and knowledge of what the level of service is and is going to be. I'm like Jason a little bit. I have a hard time just saying we ignore traffic impact studies or make our own decisions. That's tough.
Yeah, and when I say that, again, before this gets put on any particular social media site that Patrick says we don't need turn lanes in Nolensville, I have.
It's probably already on there.
It might be. It might be. By the way, Wes, I've never seen you so happy to be sitting down and not standing. I'm really concerned about it, but the inner struggle that I'm having is experts, data, statistics from people who know what they're doing and someone who doesn't know, other than the eyeball test of, oh my gosh, I think it needs one. And I'm going to say that my opinion is more important and carries more weight than that opinion. If I'm going to say, I want you to do this, I feel like I want to have more of a foundation to stand on than, because I think it would be a great idea.
When you show some graphs for stops,
yeah,
you can make a graph show different things. Isn't that true?
It's true.
I'm not saying that they're doing anything they shouldn't be doing, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying the traffic study is a guide for us to go by. There's nothing that says we can't apply more than what the traffic study says. That's my point. And I am not for a four-way stop on Nolensville Road. The only four-way stop on Nolensville Road, they're getting rid of and try you for safety reasons. They're going to a traffic signal. So I'm certainly not for that, and I've got some other issues when we do this.
My top priority, if I were to prioritize, would be the traffic signal at York Nolensville Road.
Mine too.
This is certainly important, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is I would rather see us have a uniform process about which we're going to evaluate.
You know, I guess what you're saying is, I can understand what you're saying, but we just keep delaying subdivision after subdivision after subdivision after subdivision. And we've got turn lanes approved on several, and some have agreed to put them in. On a PUD, we're not, I mean, we have the right to require it. The traffic study says one thing, but for the safety of the town is what I'm looking at, the future of the town. Anything that it costs to put in, it's going to be put back on the house. Whoever buys a house is paying for whatever work goes on. There's not going to be any money lost. They're going to recoup their money some way or another, however it goes. But for the safety of the town, a turn lane, especially when you've got schools on both ends of the collective road, and the traffic is coming out of one county going to the other, and the county going to the other one, in Orange and the afternoon. And sometimes I've been out here looking at Nolan Road sometimes at 1:30, 2 o'clock, and it's lined up. I'm looking for the safety of the town and the future of the town. If we don't do something now with the entrance to these subdivisions and these 2-lane roads, we're just digging ourselves deeper and deeper. How many of these have we got to put down before we take a stand to control some of the traffic? Not going to be able to control it all, but a safety level trigger as far as turning people getting in and out of these subdivisions and stuff. And I'd like to tell them a 4-way stop sign up there at York and Williams and Norton Road is suicide. That's definitely a no. That's a suicide waiting to happen.
Can we talk about some other issues and come back to these?
Well, we had decided this one.
Well, I know.
Yeah, but we still
Let's talk about the more things that Kim said.
If I recall, Jenny, you had asked them in the first reading to connect the trail to.
Yes.
I just wondered where that was at.
I had a conversation today because I knew tonight we'd be looking at it. I had a conversation today with one of the owners of this property, and they got a meeting with Mr. Tom Moon scheduled, and that discussion is on the agenda. And I went out to look at Silver Stream. I know where the trail comes in at. I walked it now, and I measured it to be something like 1,600 linear feet that it would take to tie into that trail, and they will have discussions, and their aim is to do it.
All right, that brings me to my next point.
Does that satisfy you with that one?
Well, it does, but it doesn't. We had this, it come before the board, what, in July maybe, for first reading? It's been several months. And they haven't had that discussion with Tom Moon yet, knowing you requested it at first reading. Why, when they come back for second reading, why don't you have an answer instead of saying, well, we might have a meeting next week with you?
I'd be glad to answer that. Our willingness to put in the trail and pay for the trail, and that's totally on me, is I don't see that as a problem getting that executed. Those neighbors are going to want to walk to the school. Our focus has been on addressing issues such as the traffic, increased traffic analysis, changing the plans, and those. To me, that's a secondary issue that I feel is going to be very easily solved. We're more than happy to pay for the trail. We know the neighbors will have it. So if that's something that was not going to frustrate you or feel like you were not being responsive, to me that was a very easy item for us to solve, because it's really a financial one that we've already obligated ourselves to in all of our financial projections, is to pave the way all the way there. So
and I understand that, but like I said, you've had 5 or 6 months to have this conversation, so I'm kind of disappointed it hadn't happened before tonight. And I guess my next, can I go on? I'm on.
Oh, certainly, yeah, don't want to slow you down.
The buffering, and I know Mr. Brother Bill Highsmith brought up buffering the last time. This time he brought up water, but in first reading in public hearing, he brought up the buffering. But in some of these, and I know this is the concept plan, I know it's not a construction drawing, but your lots back all the way up to the property line and show the buffering on the neighbor's property. So I'm kind of concerned about if the property line comes back, if the lot property line comes back to your development property line, how are you going to get a 20-foot buffer?
I believe that's just the scale of the drawing.
Go to the west side, Sarah, if you don't mind.
Oh, right there.
No, to the east side, I'm sorry.
Oh, east side.
The northeast side. Certainly looks like that lot line comes back to the property line to me on those lots. Scroll back to the right there.
That's the McGowan tract that we currently have under contract. But we'd be glad to add that 20-foot in. Absolutely. That's not a problem.
But there again, you're showing buffering on property you don't own yet. And you're here before us tonight.
And that was an oversight.
Oh, what else? Anybody else got anything, or you want me to keep going?
Keep going, Tyler.
All right. Sidewalks, do they run from property line to property line on York Road and Rocky Fork Road?
East and west.
East and west?
Right now, because, and we'd be glad to add it if they don't have the greenway. We just anticipated putting the greenway in and people using the greenway rather than the frontage road. But if that's something that you'd like to see, we can put that in. But we were trying to get everything internal along Mill Creek with a mixing path.
Well, I think in Telefair, did you do a sidewalk property line to property line on York?
We did, yes, sir. The topography and
And that
part
was
of this.
wanted by the board?
It was, yes, sir. I mean, if it's requested, that's something we're fine for. The likelihood or the topography for using that, we just didn't think it was there, but that's why we focused our attention on the multi-use map. If that's something that y'all would like to add, we don't have a problem.
I'll be quiet for a minute if y'all want. Speak on.
Somebody else want to add something? Ask another question? Make a motion or whatever?
I appreciate the Collector Street cross section.
I do too.
No, you got.
I'm adding positives. Trying to, we beat everybody, but not much for adding some positives. That's good.
And I am thankful for the cemetery to get a divided entrance on York.
Yes.
Too bad one wouldn't be on Rocky Fork.
I know, because I liked it divided as well.
I'll stay very quiet.
Well, I can say I basically like the plan. I like it even more now that we're going to get a trail through Silver String. That's terrific. I think we've worked at this enough to come up with a very good plan, and I like it very much. To me, solving the traffic issues is probably where we, in order to get going, I think we need to somehow have some kind of answer to the traffic problem. What would be your solution?
You know, like I said before, we're not a body that can go out and build on an intersection or take right away that's needed. We can be a body that can be a contributor to that. So if whatever TDOT is contributing, we can contribute the difference. the four-way stop was our,
Temporary measure.
temporary. We were trying to do something now.
But you know, and kudos to you for trying to figure out something now. Because when I first saw it, I mean, I was like, oh, we need a traffic signal there. But this is better, this is at least better now while we're waiting to get that put into place than nothing. It's better than what's sitting there now.
That was something we could install with phase one, and knowing that we were working toward the traffic study, and there were moving parts with that, or not the traffic study, the traffic signal, and there were moving parts with that, but that was something we knew we could install with phase one to improve the safety of that intersection.
And we know what it takes because we went through it with, you know, a couple of other intersections. We're trying to get traffic signalization on Nolan Road. It's,
And to Jason's point, anything would be an improvement over what we have now. And what is likely to be a year from now, we don't or longer.
You know, there's one little legal issue that keeps coming to my mind. I thought I'd mention y'all while you're deliberating. The way this is agendized, it's for rezoning.
Yes.
I was going to ask that question.
And if this were to be voted down tonight, there's a provision in the zoning
Have to
ordinance
wait a
that you
year.
have to wait a year. And that's what I was looking at.
But we are approving a master concept plan and rezoning.
And rezoning. I think it's still a rezone. So I wanted you to take that into consideration. I wanted the developer to take that into consideration because I think that's the way the ordinance reads.
Because we're doing both.
Yeah, we're doing both.
And the second part is the important part.
Second part is important.
And Larry is absolutely correct. This is a plan unit development, and we talk about conditions, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, we've had these situations before, and it gets a little uncomfortable for the developer, and I don't want to put you guys in the spot. You know, you're getting a little bit of heat.
My job.
But the problem I have is they need to, you probably understand that already about the 1 year thing, but I wanted to make sure that it's in everybody's mind. Sometimes people will hear the comments and say, maybe we need to defer this a month or something to see if we can kind of address some of these issues. And I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just throwing that out as a possibility.
Question I have. This is a approval of the master concept and a result.
And result.
If it was approved then, tonight, then the question I brought up is mute, right?
No.
It's not mute?
You can add anything you want to. No, it's
Oh.
not moot.
Well, I mean,
It's not moot. If we were passed tonight with the rezone, you pass the concept plan and you pass the rezoning. And the problem you run anymore with this vested rights law we have here in Tennessee, kind of anything you approve on the concept plan, I think you begin to get some vested rights. So it doesn't prevent you from proposing new things unless they contradict what you've already approved. So
Through, and but it would be with.
Basically, what we approve as a PUD plan.
yeah, this doesn't have road diagrams and sidewalks on it. It doesn't have
It would be
it'd be different. It'd actually be just planning.
Right, that's what I'm saying. This, as far as the bite at the apple,
Yeah,
this is your bite at
This
the
is
apple.
opportunity.
Because then it's gonna be on to.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's right.
We would get
If you're on the planning board, you do that.
Yeah.
Well, my thought would be to make an amendment to this tonight, to have turn lanes on both sides. Like before carry one way.
It would be an amendment, it would just be
Addition.
It would be, it would be a condition.
I've got a question. Is Rocky Fork planned to be expanded to 4 lanes in the future, or is that or no?
Yeah.
No.
I think that's under the transportation plan.
No, I from memory, I believe it remains a 2-lane roadway. It's not programmed for a 3rd lane.
Okay.
I thought it was on there for 3.
Yeah.
You said 4.
No, it's definitely not 4.
Yeah, not 4,
And,
3.
I think eventually it becomes 3 lanes.
That's right.
I think it's right.
May not be a long time.
Yeah, the York Road improvements did go all the way up to our entrance there, but the Rocky Fork got past it.
You're right, because we just annexed, so it was after our, but our intent for the rest of Rocky Fork is 3 lanes, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I'm right, Brother Don.
You may be, I'm sure you are.
Hey, Sarah, do we have the appropriate buffering for the, I just said, hey, Sarah, and no, Siri's talking to me, sorry. I don't know Siri. I'll turn that off. I love technology. No, I'm right. I love technology. That's not the thing. Do you have the appropriate buffering on both Rocky Fork and York in order to accomplish? I know we're going through all of the revisiting everything with trees and trails and our buffering requirements. I see we've got type C both sides, 100 feet. I think it's right too. I just want. I just want to make sure.
Just confirm here a second.
Yes.
While she's confirming, can I ask Chris about the runoff on Mr. Highsmith's property?
We can definitely take a look at that. I know there's a identifying stream right along that side. And we'd be glad to, with our help, our wonderful engineer here, take a look at that and make sure that we're not contributing to the additional runoff to make that work.
The concern is now, you know, as the picture state, you can probably see, but I mean, it's a lot of water, and there's no rooftops and no pavement, and I know you'll have to have some water quality control, but it's a big concern for him.
Well, and we're getting into the detailed design, and so, the idea would be, I, as an engineer, did not like to put a point solar discharge onto a neighbor anyway, and the idea would be to try and get the water, to Mill Creek. We'll have to do detention and treatment down in those low areas anyway, and so carrying that water, to Mill Creek would be where we'd head with the design. But we will certainly be cognizant of the water we send in any direction and make sure that we're not increasing runoff on anybody.
Anything else improved?
I was gonna say, if anything, but with proper engineering, it might even improve.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and typically that's what the way we would approach that design is to pull as much water away from any individual as we could. So.
Sarah, you have an answer?
I do. It says the width between the front lots and the road right of way shall be 150 feet. A reduction to 100 feet may be allowed by the planning commission if the topography is elevated sufficiently to minimize direct view from the street.
So we're at 100, which is the reduced amount.
I have an issue with that. So is topography involved? Or why didn't we come in here with 150 foot? That's required unless it's topography, and it should have been disclosed to us, I would think.
From a design standpoint, there is some slope there and some existing tree there. I think being that it is a PUD, there was an option to do 100 or 150. There is some over there. We decided to go with the 100 from my recollection on that, and that's what we submitted from the very beginning. So until now that we didn't realize that was a concern.
That's a great question, Jason.
Well, again, most of it is, they're showing is trees, whether they're existing or whether they're to be planted. I don't know, maybe
It's where you come down the hill. If you have the property line at the very, I guess the westernmost boundary is the top of the hill, and you come down, there's a tremendous amount of tree cover there. Call it the rock garden with the cedars and the rocks in the very front before you get the pastures, and that's what that is.
Well,
Okay, gentlemen, we need,
I got an answer from Don, if I may, on the Rocky Fork Road, it does say, if I'm reading it right, Don, 4 lanes. So,
No, he's working on
Yeah.
4 lanes.
yeah.
Jordan Road, 2 sections.
It is full.
that's surprising.
I missed that, forgot that. So on the buffering, 150 to 1, that said planning commission can allow for that reduction based on TOPO. So we either have to address that now or kick it down the road.
Well, I mean, is topo the whole width of both sides?
My guess is not,
That's what I'm thinking.
because it's 100 on both sides, so is TOPO the issue on both sides?
There's a topo on one side, the other side has the high point where the cemetery is, it's flat and then it falls off. And it's,
You probably made that decision based on the existing trees, if that's what you're showing here.
yes, sir.
The existing trees and the topography. And there was mentioned, and that would be basically on both sides, the York Road side and the Rocky Fork side.
They're both Howard trees, both sides.
But it's not about trees, it's about topo, isn't it?
I think a combination of the two
Sarah?
could be.
It says TOPO.
It says, a reduction may be allowed if the topography is elevated sufficiently to minimize direct view from the street.
I guess you could argue direct view being
Trees. Shrubbery.
I just, with this particular one, Tommy, I'm just wondering, we've got other bigger issues. I know there's multiple planning commissioners in here, we know that, that issue exists, so if we can address that here and try to.
Looking at this map here, it looks like the topo is going, it's not falling off or going up, it's going sloping toward the road, if I'm reading the topo right. And I don't know anything about topo.
I believe everything you just said.
I know the little lines are
Okay.
going, the little lines are going away from the road, so that means it's going.
These little lines should have numbers on them there somewhere, Tommy.
Yeah, you should be able to
I
see
see the
that.
lot numbers, but I don't see
Oh.
topo lines on this one. On the big one. If Sarah will zoom in right there, she can see what I'm talking about.
There's topo existing on the Rocky Fork Road side. I can see them with numbers. No.
I see one that says 340, but I mean, but they're running
Oh, wait.
almost perpendicular to the Rocky Fork Road, so that tells me it's not sloping uphill or downhill, it's sloping along with the road.
Well, on the Rocky Fork Road side, you see a hill that tops right at the beginning of the development. And everything that comes, other lines after that top of that hill, it's coming downhill.
Because it's 105 one way, it's 150 there. Let's see, hold on.
Yeah, it's coming downhill. You see it.
But it's flowing with the road.
You're right, the road's flowing with it.
Yeah,
probably.
that's what I'm saying, so it's not going uphill or downhill, the topo is flowing with the road.
No, the road's going downhill.
Did we run into any issues from
The road and the topo, all of it's going downhill.
did we run into any issues if we were to put this through with the 100 foot and then the planning commission goes back and says 150 and you lose lots as a result? Is that
I think you'd have a problem because basically you approved it 100 foot. That's your vested rights.
I think
even though the ordinance says planning commission can make that determination?
Right, but in a sense, BOMA just over the road, PC on that. The legislative body always.
I heard that knock.
It's, to me, there's still a lot of issues. I mean, I would like to see Christopher defer this ordinance, but that's just my opinion.
If I had my shopping list, I'd want to see 150-foot buffers on both sides. I'd like something more definitive on the turn signal.
I've heard though.
And the turn lanes all. I don't know.
If I might, I've heard that you have a contract that would expire before next month's meeting.
Yes, sir. I mean, y'all have worked with me before, and our goal is to come in here and work as a body. We've deferred this a number of times to try to find some issues on the intersection improvements. We made some headway. I mean, from a governmental standpoint, we've made some real headway there, and that's why we were, confident that we could resolve them here. And maybe it might be easier for me to come in and say, I'm hearing your concerns tonight, and let me maybe address them and see if that allays that, rather than deferring this again, because there's some things as an owner I can do that are maybe over and above what a traffic study or something else can do. The first issue, the overarching issue, or let's talk about turn lanes first of all. Most of the traffic I see is not taking a left turn in going west on Rocky Fork. I think it's coming in. We've got 3 ways coming out on each section. I see your concern for a left turn lane. I think that's something we can definitely do and put on the plan coming back from the new school complex. Put a left-hand turn lane coming in off of York, to me makes a lot of sense from that traffic pattern of people and families coming in from school there, if that lays that. Coming from Rocky Fork, not as much, because I don't think people are coming from the county in to take a left-hand turn lane in there. And then I think we have a 3-way coming out, which I think kind of handles the Rocky Fork side very well, but I see, especially coming in, you're taking a right-hand turn, and then you have stacking within the community on the collector to take a left-hand turn as you come out, if that makes any sense. So I see a left-hand turn lane, something that we can definitely do over and above traffic study on the York side, taking left into the community. I think that makes a lot of sense. From a standpoint of the buffers, we can definitely provide all adequate 20-foot buffers where there's a bigger plan there for. The 100-foot buffer is something that I believe we got together and submitted based upon some aspects of the plan with the topography. We probably drew a consistent buffer along the frontage because we did have some issues with where the topography was on top of the hill there, and we just kept the 100-foot all the way through there. Through staff and through the body before, we never had any concerns or comments on that before. I think we have heavily tree buffer on both sides. We can adjust the buffer out on certain areas. I would like to keep it just at 100 to keep it consistent. I think based upon the treed area and the open space, if you look at this side, you're only talking the area, I guess, on the Rocky Fork side, on the western side of the plan. That's the area that has the hilltop, which makes sense to be 100 foot there, and then it drops off pretty precipitously. We have 2, on probably acre lots right there, and then you drop down into an existing canopy and a creek crossing. So if we did go 150, it would affect the 2 big lots. The small lots up there really have that topo. I guess that meets the spirit of the code. Yeah, which I think are good additions to the community. I think having those very large lots are a positive thing. So I think 100 may make sense there. And then on the other side, if you want to go over there, those are the large lots as well. If you see that, we have an open space area across from that wet weather conveyance in the southwesternmost corner. You know, we thought, hey, this is an opportunity, maybe we could put just a big 1.5 acre lot on York Road, but we pulled it back and pulled it in the community and actually picked up that lot on the other side because we felt like that would be a great buffer. So if you look at that buffer between the wet weather conveyance on the southwest side, and you're only impacting, those are two big lots as well. They're two 105 plus foot wide and, you know, some over 200, well, one of them's, you know, 300 feet deep. So if you start dissecting it and looking at it in the pieces, it's not, it definitely is not a lot grab. It kind of, I think makes more sense for that.
Well, if it stays at 100, I can just tell you the landscape plan is gonna have to be
pretty robust,
strong, in my opinion.
Sure.
'Cause that's just the direction we're moving.
We've been shooting trees out there for weeks. There's so many trees, seriously.
Good.
So we will make sure that.
Don't mow them down.
We will make sure there are plenty of trees.
All right.
Well, that's what you're showing on your drawing, that these are existing trees.
Well, this doesn't reflect the tree survey. We're still finishing that up.
But again, you're showing them as existing.
Yes, sir, yeah, and every tree that is existing in those buffers will stay existing in those buffers, and if we need to plant more, we will plant more, and that is not a problem, but they are pretty heavily wooded.
And that's good, because we've seen these buffers before that magically disappear when somebody gets on a piece of equipment and just decides that they're having too much fun, and then it's irreplaceable. You know, we try to go back and replant, and you can't replicate what has happened over decades. So that would be really important.
We'd be happy to put that in the construction plans and preliminary plats, whatever, just make sure that we document it everywhere, that is a no-touch area, other than cutting our road through.
Okay. See how agreeable we can be?
Can I comment?
Some.
I certainly respect the fact that you've got contract obligations that are going to expire, but it's not up to us. I mean, that's not our fault, that's not our responsibility. And I'm certainly that extensions happen in contract deals every day. So let's not use that as a reason to do something hastily tonight. That's not our responsibility.
I agree with you. No problem.
And I certainly am glad you mentioned the left-hand turn lane on York. I will certainly consider something on Rocky Fork, whether it may be a deceleration lane.
That's kind of where I was thinking, a deceleration lane on Rocky Fork with a left-hand turn lane on York as a compromise.
Anything to help.
And I still have some concerns with the 100-foot buffer, because once this is our last bite.
Well, that was my only concern, is that's why I asked Bob, if we do that, then have we passed along some vested rights that's hard to do as planning commission.
Reason I asked about the turn lane.
It was a different story before they passed that law. Once they passed that vested rights law, it changed a lot of the things, the way we operate.
With the amount of existing tree line that's already there, though, I think I'd be more willing to compromise on that than I would on other things.
How many times have we been out there and we would pay attention to the trees? And I know there's a lot of trees, but are they enough buffering that we consider tonight and say, sure, we're good with it?
Can we make it, no, there's nothing we can do in terms of a condition on that.
Well, I will tell you, on the buffering, I do know with the property owner that you got you have an option on the property. And some of the stipulations you have with it. And one of the things that he was worried about is going up his driveway and going back where his buildings and stuff is at, was making sure there's plenty of buffer between him and the development that you're putting in. And, I'll have to go with these guys right here, you know, props is everything, especially where he's at. So, yeah, the buffer needs to be in place.
Absolutely. And that was an oversight. Absolutely. I totally agree.
Getting closer, I don't know if we're there yet.
I'm writing, not from the planning commission all over again. So they did sit there and write all the conditions.
Okay, where are we with the 100-foot buffer? Are we, can we live with it, or are we saying we can live with it in spots, but in other spots we don't want to, we want 150, or exactly where we at? You've been doing all the writing.
I mean, I guess I would say the point of the buffer is to create a sense of, right? Buffer, privacy, screening, whatnot from the, in this case, arterial road. And if there's substantial existing trees, or there's going to be the addition of substantial landscaping, I don't know, you're looking at it.
Well, you're cutting in a third.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here and don't know what the tree line looks like.
Yeah.
Here's one thing you might be able to do on the buffering issue. You could require 150 because that's consistent with the ordinance, right?
And then let planning
But gives the
commission.
planning commission the ability to.
Well, that's why I was asking about the condition.
Yeah, if you don't, as part of your approval, don't grant them the ability to alter that, it's probably a best rights issue. They can't.
That's why I was asking earlier
You
about
can
it.
allow the planning commission at future consideration to adjust that
Yeah.
as they see fit.
That's why I said earlier, if we don't kick it down the road. And that's why I was asking, can we just do a condition? 150, planning commission can look at it, we can get a better look at the existing tree inventory and the topo, since we don't know, we don't know right now.
Other than looking at the lines on the map.
Yeah. And then see if, because we may look at that and we may go, we may decide that we are comfortable with what's existing.
And to clarify, if you approve the 150, then you can't be increased beyond the 150. It's the best to write 150. But
It can be reduced to
But
100.
you can just allow them to reduce it, particularly if they want that, or they can reduce it. Planning commission agree?
I would be okay with that.
Can I ask another crazy off-topic?
Sure.
question? I wouldn't be done if it didn't do
No.
When we annexed it, back in June or July, whenever that was, I know we took the whole road on Rocky, York Road.
Yeah.
Right? And so did we just take the portion of the Henry property on Rocky Fork, so we have from the Henry property back to Burberry Glen is in the county? Am I correct in saying that?
Tommy, I would believe that would be, and I said it on a meeting with county mayor. He said if you annex the part, you take the entire road. Now, he also indicated if we annex something here and down here, we annex something on this side, then we should take the road between them. But there's a pretty good distance from where we annex this to Burberry Glen.
I know when we annexed Burberry Glen, we took it from Burberry Glen all the way back to our existing.
That's the way I understand, and that makes sense.
So
because of the
I was just
order.
trying to remember what we did when we annexed the Henry property. Or do we even know what we did? We're just a wing and a prayer.
Well, I never considered having to take property from, the Henry property all the way back where our boundary.
I didn't think we would, I was just asking the question.
I thought it was just that section.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I would have, I think,
Zoning map
yeah.
shows that there's a considerable distance.
Okay.
We would have had a serious conversation if we had annexed our road.
That's what I thought, I just wanted to change the subject for a little bit.
So we got 100-foot buffer, 150-foot buffer that can be reduced by planning commission, but that cannot be increased, depending on their assessment of the topo and the existing tree inventory. That's what I have down so far.
So you're gonna make sure all the planning commissions take a field trip individually?
With that submittal, we'll have that tree inventory in front of you.
Yeah.
And then we would also know the ability to put in berms if that makes sense or whatever. So, right here off the top of my head, I can't tell you if it's completely wooded in that entire buffer, so there could be an ability to put in some berms and stuff in there, to create an opaque barrier. So,
Well, yeah, and I think you're right. Janice and I drive this road probably more than anybody. She has a daughter that lives right across the street here. And my recollection is that it's pretty heavily treed. I would want to take another look at it, but there are a massive tree line down through there. And for what it's worth.
The second thing I have is that we would have a left-hand turn lane on York Road and a deceleration lane along Rocky Fork.
Yes, sir.
And that we would have a trail connection
Trail to Silver String.
to Silver String.
The deceleration lane will not fit into the 100-foot buffer or 150-foot buffer, whatever. Just want to make sure that the buffer starts from the edge of the road to the right of way, correct? Somebody.
There's got to be 100 foot.
Yeah.
From the edge, yeah. That's what
From
I
the
was.
right of way, yeah.
That would be
Right.
my,
Yeah.
Just for clarification. So I guess we're back to the big question. Nolensville Road.
And I guess my question, I'm just laughing. Derek, welcome to being on phone at 9:35 at night, and we're still on the.
With two agenda items. Yeah.
How, really our only option, if we're going to address a traffic signal at Nolensville Road, is to say, we're going to require a traffic signal at Nolensville Road. And however that gets funded, whether it's from TDOT or from you or from Williamson County School System and Summerlin or everybody in between, we don't have an in between. We either have to say, you have to do it or you don't.
Well, I think we could require this developer at maybe 50% bailout to pay whatever the cost between the state and the actual cost.
Well, that means we're committing them to $283,000. Am I right on that?
If the total is, yeah, something, the total is 575.
Let's be,
Yeah.
let's be, of course, that's putting in contingency, but we know how that goes. 288, that's the 288.
And I think the 50% build out would be homes occupied.
And would that be a contribution, right, not an actual cost improvement?
I
don't think they wouldn't be.
They wouldn't be the contract, they're just contributing to the
contribution
improvement.
to the
I think they
cost.
would be.
But we would require that be done, like,
Yeah.
so.
Well, the states, we think, will do it. And that would probably put us at 2 years down the road. And you would know where you're going with your contributions, and we would give it a 50% build out.
But we would say, if the state contributed 80, it's a max of, we're not saying you have to kick in, we're saying you gotta kick in 50 regardless, or because,
I
you know what I'm
think
saying?
at 50%, they would provide, and by the end, we should have an announcement by the state.
I think Jimmy's talking about a different 50%. I think Jimmy's talking about 50% building.
That's what I'm talking about.
He's talking about 50% of the
I'm talking
cost.
about 50% of the cost.
But
No,
you got two conversations.
at build out, they would be required to make up the difference between what it's gonna cost and, the state's contribution.
But if the state contributes zero, we're gonna say that would mean that they would be fully responsible. So it seems like we gotta either say that or cap it or something. We can't-
You literally do, but you're making conditions on approval. This is your shot at that.
Yeah, because if we just say you're responsible for the difference, TDOT, I'll look at that and go, well, we're not contributing. They're on the whole thing. Because that's what, yeah, I don't, you know, that feels ugly.
That feels so, yeah, I'm sure Chris
Chris
would
is
agree.
like, thank
with
God,
that.
Jason. No, I understand.
I was trying to be fair.
What I was suggesting was that they're saying they're committed to an extent, assuming that there's gonna be partnership in this from TDOT. You feel like you're working your way down the road towards that?
We are, in conjunction with the town. I mean, we would
Right.
like to be a participant in having the solution. We just
Right.
would like to know that we're not the only solution.
Right, so that's why I was saying if we capped it at up to, and if TDOT comes in with a certain amount, someone's committed to a certain amount, and let's say we have a discussion with
The county.
schools, and they're like, you know, we're gonna, and then the town's willing to do, then we can all come together. But I don't want to just leave it open-ended, it's just a blank check, and you're saying $500, I mean, that's a lot of money. That's over $500,000. Is that a lot of money? Yeah.
Two guys.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Well, a lot of lots. A lot of lots.
That is just one suggestion, maybe somebody else has a better one.
I got another question. Is this $576,000 our special traffic light?
No.
So really it's more than that.
Well,
$100,000 more.
I think we, $100,000, I wouldn't think so.
How much more is it for,
Man?
I think it's about $125,000 additional cost.
Additional?
Yes.
Okay.
take
And that
that
would-
back then. Now we're at 700.
Just gotta get it all out there.
That's more money. You're right, I didn't think about that. You know what he's saying, you know what he's referencing. Okay.
I thought they were about $75,000 in dollars.
Oh, pretty like traffic signal.
129.
I think that's what we spent on Sunset Road.
Wow.
I could do all that, I don't have that number in front of me, I'm going to remember.
I was thinking it's close to 100,000.
Okay, we could say, I guess we could say, this traffic signal is outside the center of our town, and we could live with the state's traffic signal, or we may not want to say that.
I don't know why we would say that. We're in trouble.
I know.
The other thing too is, if we're gonna go down the path of making a requirement, that you participate in some way on that, do we put that in an early phase and go ahead and just go that direction instead of spending another $32,000 to do temporary signalization? If we're already talking about another $700,000, it's like, do we want to spend require another 30 on top of that?
I have two thoughts on the topic of traffic control signal. One, it is warranted today. I don't know if I misheard earlier, but it's warranted today.
Yes.
That's
For
what
our
we
traffic
understand.
light. So
Because it says, this is an indication of traffic signal controls justified based upon the existing traffic volume at the intersection.
Exactly. So, if you took the state out of it altogether, we would have a situation where traffic control signal is warranted. We have a subdivision that's going to exacerbate that need. Normally, we would say, you gotta put it in. And we identify threshold every time they do it. It's a pre-existing need to do it on the front end. That's a pretty big hit on the front end. It just so happens that G-Square Engineering offered to do the spot safety study on our behalf. Submitted that to the state, and the results of that study indicate that traffic control signal would be warranted under their program, in which they would fund it 100%. That's a separate issue. That's not been determined yet. That request is before TDOT for their consideration, but they've not confirmed they would be doing that. So if you took them out of the equation, all you have left is an existing need and the need to fulfill that.
So are you saying that based on that information, TDOT would either fully fund it or not fund it, but there wouldn't be an in-between?
That's exactly right.
Is that what you were saying?
That's not the information we're getting from TDOT. There's, from what I understand, there are 3 separate entities within TDOT that are looking at whether or not it falls under their purvey. And that based upon that, it's a 50 to 80%.
That's what I
of their contribution.
They cover.
That they cover.
I mean, these are conversations I've not had with TDOT. My only involvement has been with
The reason they don't cover the
in the spot safety study.
Yeah, well, and Chuck was just saying, during that conversation, they said we don't cover 100% because there are impact fees that are collected for improvements within the town of Nolensville. And they're discounting that on the 100%.
Then we don't get anywhere unless we start throwing stuff out, right? So their willingness to put a left turn lane in on York and a deceleration lane on Rocky Ford, even though the traffic study does not call for it, I would be inclined to say that we would want their contribution to signalization at Nolensville Road not to exceed 50% of the total cost, including our embellished version. Hold on. And not do the temporary signalization. Because if it's warranted today and our intent is we need to go and get that done, to me, it's a waste of money. We can wait just a shade longer. It'd be a waste of money spending $31,000 to do it temporarily and then to go rip it all out to do what we know needs to be done. That's my thought. Because if TDOT's saying, depending on their program, it could be 50 to 80% of the cost. Well, if they're kicking in 50, TDOT's kicking in 50, it's done. If they're kicking in more, you're on the hook for less. But under that scenario, we would essentially take the town out of the equation, right?
Well, I'm assuming that when we're talking, TDOT will eventually probably approve a light there. If you require the light you put there and TDOT doesn't do it, I mean, you got another problem.
Yep. But then it would be back to the town to
Town requires it, they may have to
make some decisions.
It's tough issues, obviously.
I just know if we don't come up with some baseline, we go nowhere.
What are you gonna do with the collector road? Is it your intention to build it from Rocky Fork to York Road on the front end? That would be the first phase of your
Yes, sir.
development?
Yes, sir.
I was sort of thinking that maybe we could split this in half, and we approve one half with, and we're just throwing things out of the water.
That's what I do all day.
Yeah, I know.
Throw it out there and see what happens.
We could approve half of it, allow you to get to that point, and then assess what, and you make a commitment at that point, and then we get to the other half a little bit later, 2 years later down, and then we can assess where we're at more accurately than we can today.
I'd love to buy a half of it. The challenge is I need to buy a whole, our goal is to come in and,
Put all the infrastructure in first.
and get, we're gonna eat at it from both ends. We're gonna have builders on one side and then different goal with builders on
And
the
that
other
idea
side.
just won't fly then.
Yeah, and then goal two is to try to
Somebody
get
else
the
come up with
area
a
up
better
front.
idea.
I don't think it's better, I'm just gonna throw out an idea. So it seems like to me, we just need to require a traffic signal. And how it gets paid for is kind of up to Chris and his crew. And then,
But we put that, yeah, we're putting them on $700,000. I just don't,
sometimes it's the price of doing business.
I don't know, Tony.
Well,
When
we
the
could,
numbers,
we could,
if we require it and the numbers don't work out, then he's not gonna build a subdivision.
He'll build on, well,
if we go with the condition, Tommy, and require traffic signals, then at 50% of development, 50% of the house lots built and occupied, then we determine if we could determine the amount at that time, we'd have a much better handle on what we but he'd have to agree to whatever amount we come up with after 50%.
Well, I mean,
We're requiring on the front.
so you're saying we require a traffic signal on the front end, but you're saying we don't determine how much he's responsible for until it's,
Till we get to 50%.
but I'm gonna,
And that pushes 2 years down the road, 2.5, 3 years, and the state will have made up their mind. And if the state hadn't agreed to do the spot study improvement, then he's gonna look at the rest of it.
I'm gonna put myself in this issue real quickly. If we say we're going to require a traffic signal now, and we'll determine your responsibility once we're 50% built out, we could come back in 2 years and say, you're 100% responsible. And
Well,
we're
that's
right back to where we are
what
today.
I'm telling you, but he may seem sure enough that TDOT's gonna come through that he might agree to that.
No, I mean, I'm not laughing at you. Putting assurances on T-Dot, just, I have a mind melt for just
What
a
I would
moment.
like the body, if y'all could keep me, that we all wanna, I always say we wanna pay our part, right? We wanna pay our, we're a vested part of this community. This is the multiple developments we've done. This is an intersection that, regardless of what Henry property comes or goes, is in need of a traffic light now.
We're going.
And we are wanting to help provide that solution. In the same token, we don't want to be put on the firing line just because we're the next guy up at the stadium as well. But we're willing to come up with something to where it's, you know, if we feel that, in other words, everyone will have skin in the game. If Don and the science says that TDOT is, this warrants it, and we feel that TDOT warrants it, and we're willing to, or, you know, that we'll go forward and participate, then everyone has a vested interest to push the can down the road together to get it done.
If I can, I'm actually gonna jump on your wagon for a second. The key thing that he's saying here, this is, and I'm glad he said it that way, because this is the rub that it had, and I'm going back to what Don said. It's warranted today. Getting closed on the property. For us to put that responsibility on this development's not what's causing that signalization being needed. It's already needed. And we then gonna say, okay, here's what's gonna do it. That feels unfair.
can I jump in there one quick?
Yeah, come on.
All right, it just so happens to be that he's the same developer that did Telfair, that we required no, if I'm not mistaken, road improvements. And if I'm not mistaken, your traffic study said that Telfair doubled the traffic on York Road back a year and a half or 2 years ago when you started. And we required no.
And I'm not saying he should be off the hook. I'm just saying it should be on the hook. I don't think we should just blanket say,
So-
we require it, you figure it out.
So Telfair Development created a lot of the problem at York Road.
12%. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Telfair is 12%, and this unit actually is 12%, because it's split between New York and Rocky Ford. So the combined is 24%. And it's the school is a lot of the.
Yeah, going to 50% to me would be aggressive.
Yeah, in my opinion, the condition is that they're willing to participate. I think 50% is high. I mean, I would be more comfortable in a 30, % range, but their willingness to participate in the event that we're able to get TDOT to act sooner than later, I hope. And, like I said, we're going to try to talk to the county about the schools and Summerlin and everybody else to participate and try to raise the funds that way. But I just can't put an entire light on this one project. That doesn't feel right.
What you would, the 50% buyout, I could go with it. With it, go from there.
When you say 50%, you're talking about 50% of the cost or 50% build out?
Well, Jimmy was talking about, I'm trying about 50% of the cost, but
Yeah.
I could go with that. And then whatever happens down the road, I mean, we know the light's gotta be there.
Yeah, lights gotta be there.
Lights gotta be there. This is the only, right now, this is the only opportunity to get any.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you're the opportunity for us to get systems to get a light fixed.
I seasoned up before I came here tonight.
And you've done well.
Yeah.
We've seen people not. Here's what I have written down right now. 150-foot buffer that can be reduced by planning commission based on topography and existing tree inventory.
But I don't think it can be reduced. I think it could be 150-foot buffer.
150-foot buffer can be reduced to 100 based on, by the planning commission,
Yeah.
based on their assessment. A left turn lane on York Road, completion of the trail in the Silver Stream, a deceleration lane on Rocky Ford, and a commitment to be responsible for no more than 50% of the signalization at Nolensville Road to include the additional, what do you call it?
Upgrade.
The design standard for signalization by Nolensville. I don't guess I wouldn't say anything about the temporary signal that was being proposed, but that's not, is the temporary signal part of the plan?
No, I don't think it's part of the plan.
So I wouldn't even have to say, so I'll just leave it out.
What about sidewalks on York?
A sidewalk completed for the length of the property line, both on Rocky Ford and York.
Mayor, was your item in there at 50% build out for that contribution?
No, but I would ask Jason to determine when this contribution takes place.
Yeah.
And we, I had talked about 50%, but maybe they have some different ideas.
Yeah.
50% build out, realistically,
It'd be.
is 4 or 5 years.
3 years.
That's on the.
It could be 50% build out or initiation of construction by TDOT. And you want it to build it, right? So,
I think that's even better.
50% build out, or whenever commencement is supported by TDOT, whichever occurs over.
You know, there was at one point, Sarah, we talked about how we wanted to get away from conditions, right? And I'm writing a short story right now.
I don't think we'll ever get away from conditions on planning.
No, it's,
And particularly with the vested rights law, it kind of forces you into it.
What about the bumping all the way around? 20-foot bump, needs to be an open space or that don't need to be. Jason, that's it.
Well, they got it labeled
Yeah,
20 foot all
I
the
really
way
think that,
around.
I really think that was just an error on the person doing the graphics. It is supposed to have a 20-foot buffer all the way.
It has to be 20 foot from the property line.
We'll make sure of that, I think.
You need to put it in here.
Well, it's on the concept plan we're approving. Well, the lot's back
Well,
up.
it does say 20-foot buffer.
It does, but the lot's back up to the property
The
line.
drawing does, yes.
And Jason, when you make this an emotion, say it real slowly so Callie.
Allie, you know, girl, I got you. I got your back, girl. Chris, how you feel about where we're at so far?
Yes, sir.
Right now, I know you're smarty right now, aren't you? A little bit.
It's better than a success.
We are,
No, sir. Back up to the open space. Yeah, it'll be clear on the preliminary plan, then you go get the six, so.
do you want to put, instead of 50%, do you want to put a number in?
Correct.
Based upon the estimate, so that if TDOT does not start, we have to make a contribution, the contribution is very clear.
I learned a long time ago, you put in legislation some numbers, it doesn't include increased cost. That's what I was gonna say, put the traffic signal on 570,000 a day, won't be 570,000.
Or you want to base upon, I guess, based upon engineers, an additional engineer's estimate?
Say that one more time. You basing it on 50%
An updated, if it's not initiated by then, it's based upon an updated engineer's estimate.
At the
Cost of-
at the time of either 50% build out.
Or an engineer's estimate at the time of contribution. That way we have a,
So you're saying if the estimate comes back to be 650,000 plus our pretty light is 700?
If you're saying get a new estimate at
Yeah.
the time of either 50% build out or TDOT commencement of construction, whatever that new estimate is, it's a percentage of that new estimate.
yeah.
We need some way that we
Wouldn't
can
that be the
continue
bid?
to develop, that we don't get frozen because we don't know what that cost is. We need to be able to, yes, I sure can, I'm sorry. We need some way that we can continue with the project and have a way that there's a number that's set that we can pay that money in, and we're not stopped if the DOT hasn't started yet, and we get to the point that we're 50% built out.
At 50% build out, you get an estimate, whatever that number is, that's what's kicking in the kitty, even if it's another year before it starts and costs have continued to escalate. They're being held to that number at what we're saying is 50% build out. If it's TDOT commencement, it is what it is, right? And that's the contribution. But if we're not there yet, at 50% build out, which would be 3 years down the road, which I would be surprised if we wouldn't be there yet.
I would too, it's just the details like this make a difference in down the road.
That's a fair, that's a fair.
It is fair, but what, you know, here's the what if, here's the negative economy. What if 2 years from now, in the downturn in the economy, they sell the project, the new buyer,
Is there held to the same
the
thing?
new buyer goes belly up, where are we at?
There's only gonna be 50% of the houses out there, and then no more until the money's paid in. You're still covered.
You'll still have the right to say no more inspections, no more COs, you have 50% of your houses there, no more building permits.
But my point is, what if Old and Smith die?
Well, there's a lot happening here.
We
just killed y'all.
See like episode of Dallas or something.
I understand, but if they start the project and sell 40% of the lots, build out 40% of the lots, and something happens, and they go belly up or something happens, they sell it, then we're not getting any money contributed to the lot.
Am I making myself clear? You understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I know what you're saying,
I'm just trying to protect us in case, because they're putting the money in a kitty, and it's not going anywhere where it's not going to the town, and if something happens at 40%, we don't get anything.
But I think that the value, let's say if we went to sell it, whoever buys it, the value of the property is worth what it is minus the contribution that's required.
I know, but I'm saying if they don't ever finish the development, we don't get anything.
No.
Am I
Yeah, no, you're right, if we don't, I mean, there's
some risk.
It's real estate development, there's always, I mean.
There's always risk.
There's always
However,
risk.
but this plan is,
You don't just state Old Smith though, you say the developer, this is approved, the developer made this contribution.
Right.
Whoever carries forward, I mean, they could flip this project, 3 months. So you're making the plan, that's part of the.
We're starting out speaking into the microphone. We got our
Yeah.
signs. We need to.
We have these up here.
My point is, Bob, at 40% of the project, it never goes past that. Whether they sell it, whether they go bankrupt, the bank owns it for 10 years. If it doesn't go past 50%, then the town we're not getting anything.
I think we're dealing in a what if, it's
Yeah.
a low probability.
Well, in the real estate business, it does happen.
But I think that would be something that on every condition, on every zoning in Nolensville would be a question, right? So any other condition that's ever been in Nolensville.
That's true.
Then that would be a question in that as well.
That it is true. But most of ours, we don't have a 50% build out requirement.
At that point, TDOT pays 100%, we just move on.
There's
I like
less
it.
impact.
Sounds like a good plan. I mean, look at it if you like. I'm gonna make a motion.
All right, cool. Slowly.
I'm gonna make a motion in just a second. Do that, I don't know.
Well,
Hold on just a second.
3 hours in and we're on the #1 consideration item to consider.
No,
3 hours in.
need my-
That's worth it if we get.
Hey. Well, yeah. If there was ever any doubt that we're trying to do our very best to protect this town and to make sure that all future developments are gonna be something we can be proud of, you now know firsthand tonight, and he knows firsthand tonight, we take it serious.
But that probably won't show up on 411.
But I'll have you know we're a repeat customer.
You are a repeat customer.
So, we appreciate it. Sometimes we appreciate it more than others.
Well, I still go back to this is the best night Wes has ever had. We had meetings some nights, and you're sitting there like,
I usually have somebody to take bullets for me.
that's the most comfortable chair you've ever sat in. I know it is.
I'm really 24, this gray hair is just.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve an ordinance, to approve a master concept flood plan and rezoning of the Carmen Henry property between Rocky Ford Road and York Road from the state residential to suburban residential with a planned unit development overlay with the following conditions. That the buffer along both Rocky Fork Road and York Road be 150 feet with the ability for the planning commission to reduce that buffer width to 100 feet based on their assessment of the topography and the existing tree inventory. That a left turn lane, Allie, we good?
Yeah.
That a left turn lane be constructed on York Road. That a deceleration lane be constructed on Rocky Fork Road. That there be the completion of the Greenway Trail from the Henry property development to connect to the Silver String development. Is that specific enough?
Yeah, that's the here.
Trail,
here.
right? Yeah.
That there be sidewalks installed for, I'm gonna back up, that there would be sidewalks installed from property line to property line on both Rocky Fork Road and York Road. This last one. I'm sorry. That there be a 20-foot buffer around the entire perimeter of the development. Is that okay, worded like that? I realize in other areas we're at 150 feet, so.
Minimum.
A 20-foot buffer around the entire perimeter of the development unless a larger buffer is required. And it's a minimum 20-foot buffer around the perimeter of the property unless
Yeah, I wonder if you want to put the word minimum.
a minimum 20-foot buffer around the boundary of the property unless a larger buffer is required. And lastly, that the developer be willing to, the developer be, let me think about this for 1 second. Committed to 50% of the cost of signalization at York Road and Nolensville Road based upon the engineer's estimate at either 50% build out of the development or commencement by TDOT of construction of the signalization, whichever occurs first. Let me back up. No more than 50%. That the developer be required to contribute no more than 50% of the cost of the signalization at either 50% build out or commencement by TDOT of construction of the signalization, whichever occurs first.
Utilizing the town's standard.
Utilizing the town standard for our traffic signals.
And I think you also mentioned that current cost at the time of this commitment.
I said based upon the engineer's estimate at the time.
The only you said at the time.
Okay. Callie, can we add they're committed to 50% of the cost of the engineer's estimate at the time that either 50% build out has occurred or commencement by TDOT of construction of the signalization, whichever occurs first. Yeah, according to the town standard for traffic signals.
If I may, one suggestion. We may want to specify a minimum storage at these two toll lanes.
Is that going to be dealt with though when they provide road lines and that kind of thing, Don? Is that something the planning commission approved?
Well, they would approve, but it's really an off-site improvement on the roadway out in front. How much wider would it require of them?
Can we say the construction of the left turn lane on York and the deceleration lane on Rocky Fork?
Minimum 50 foot storage.
Would that be your recommendation? Minimum 50-foot storage. Please don't make it. I mean, not you. I'll let
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Maybe two. Yes, on condition number 2, the left turn lane.
Yes.
And the deceleration lane, do you specify which direction?
It would be left turn lane on York Road heading east, heading east and a deceleration lane on Rocky Fork Road heading east. Both east. Both east, right? Right, Wes? Right, Wes?
Yeah.
They're both
Keep
east.
those please.
I just want to keep you sharp.
It's past my bedtime.
Mine too.
May I also then read back to you condition number 6?
Yep.
The last one.
Yes.
Developer commits to
50% of the cost. No more than 50% of the cost.
of the signalization at York Road and Nolensville Road based on the engineer's estimate at 50% of.
At the time of 50% of build out or commencement by TDOT of construction, whichever occurs first.
Utilizing the town standard.
Utilizing the town standards.
I don't want to keep this here any longer, but that build out to me is that houses that are built or houses that are sold. What? Yeah, that's one thing. Occupation of houses or just houses.
Like occupation.
Occupation. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I think that makes perfect sense.
They don't have cars, so they're occupied.
Yeah. Maybe give some more time.
Thank you.
I think that's fair.
See how flexible they are? It's incredible. I've listed everything. You know what they say about wind, Tommy? Everybody's got to lose one.
I'm good.
Are we okay so far?
Pretty good.
May I say?
I realize y'all are
I'm
like,
still
who's
worried
losing
about-
in this deal, right? I'm sorry. But,
I'm still worried about if something happening, but that's just.
May I second that motion?
make the motion, you second.
Yeah.
Callie, you've got it all.
I think so, yes, thank you.
Chickens, nuts.
Okay, any further discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
There being no further discussion, all in favor of the approval of second reading of ordinance 1808 conditioned, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time tonight. Moving on to item 10.
And by the way, y'all been good partners.
Yes.
And we appreciate your willingness to work with us.
Thank you.
Wes, have a good night.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being here.
And you too, Les.
We're not visitors. We're property owners and business, small business owners that have a vested interest. So we don't feel like we're
No.
fly-by-night guys. We're here with you.
And that's what we want partnerships, and we have some, and we consider you one as well. We appreciate that. Again, your willingness to work with us. I realize this can be an uncomfortable process, but it's going to be great when it's done, and we're excited to have it.
Moving on to item 10. Second reading of ordinance 1812 and order to amend or violate chapter 205 and 207 of the Nolensville Municipal Code pertaining to on-premise beer consumption. This, of course, applies to Mill Creek Brewery and their tap room. And it's something, it's really a text amendment that would take us through year 2019. His last amendment we had took us to 2018, which expired on the last day of the year. So Chris is asking us to amend our regulations to allow him to operate as he has through 2019. I've observed what Chris has done over at the brewery. I've talked with the police chief. We had no problems there. And I think it only makes sense to Mill Creek Brewery. Therefore, I make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance 18-12.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Do you have a question?
Chris Going from Mill Creek Brewery.
You have to do the address. Are we good? Good, okay, good. My only question is this, I know, and if you could answer, I know there was a period of time where you no longer had any food available or prepared on the site. About how long was that?
It's about 4 months.
Has that had any impact on the ratios that are required as a part of this ordinance to not have food for a third of the year?
No. So what I submitted to you guys is what we had for the entire year. So even without those 4 months, we still had above the required percentage.
I just wanted to state it.
Yeah.
Because I do know that that was a.
And I'll just say the reason the food truck has been closed down has been a part of the construction process. There was a point where we could no longer have somebody in the food truck serving, and we've been working our butts off trying to get it up and running so we can actually cook and have it, pass codes and everything.
So it's not up and running yet?
No, it's probably got another month of work, assuming that we can get the guys out to do things. It's become a little bit bigger project than we had anticipated on the front end. It's not been easy to convert it into like a working kitchen with all the parts and ventilation.
You made your 10% for this year, 2018, and do you see any problem making that 10% with, in the coming year?
Not at all.
This year, I'm sorry.
With the timeline that we have to get the food truck completed, and based on how many months it was closed this last year, easily passed the numbers for this last year.
Well, you pretty easily passed on 2018.
Is the wording in stock, and I think I asked you for a reason as well, is it completely just like the one we voted on last year except for the dates?
The intent is to do that. No, we haven't changed anything. Yeah, we haven't changed anything.
Is there a reason why we've got that annual date in there? And I maybe understand initially we want to do a 1 year trial period or something like this, but this is the third, is that right? This would be the third year starting? I would be fine with taking the date restriction out of there, with still having the food restriction and everything else in place. Just not need to do this every year, especially, we moved our last meeting, and so we had to, they would be in operation tonight had we not had this meeting.
Are you just taking that in the form of an amendment?
Yes.
What is your motion?
To remove the date restriction from the ordinance.
Do we have a second? Not having a second, your amendment fails. On to the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving resolution 19-01, say aye. Aye.
It's 1812. Yeah, that's why I hesitated.
It's number 10.
Ordinance 18.
Number 10, 1812, I'm sorry. Okay,
Restate.
all in favor of approval of ordinance 18-12, say aye.
Aye.
Done. Okay, item 11, reading of resolution 19-01, a resolution of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen changing the name of a portion of a road within the town limits. You all have a sketch of that, and perhaps you've looked at it. I know I have. What Don is saying here makes perfect sense, to not have a street name in the changeable block, and this does not affect any addresses So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 19-01.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor of approval of resolution 19-01, say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Under others, I have nothing other than the fact that last month we had 26 new residential permits. Anyone want to add anything else?
I'll add something. Welcome, Derek.
It's a new record on the longest board meeting.
Yeah.
There's been some long time.
Once we're Let me, here's a word of advice. When you're leaving home to come to a BOMA meeting, do not say, I think this will be a short one. I have said that so many times, and I have had to explain myself so many times. Welcome to you, to the board, and to Tommy, and to Jimmy, welcome back. And I think I can speak for all of us to say we look forward to working together, and hopefully we get some great things done this year. And let's do our very best and keep working for the best interest of the board.
Well said.
I would just like to concur, welcome, Derek. And I know you got a gizmo in the back. I'm not sure whether, I guess you're live streaming on your page, or I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, try to get it shared to all the places, but yeah.
Okay. He's got it up there on his phone, and I keep putting it in and out.
I've been interested in watching.
Yeah, we should have a new system in place next month, and I appreciate Derek volunteering his services and taking care of it. Okay, nothing else?
Mr. Mayor, just one quick thing. Last month, Jason had asked for some information on fixed versus variable rate. Chad says we should have that information by tomorrow. When we get it, it'll be disseminated.
I saw Chad a week and a half ago, and I had a conversation with him. He said he'd be working on it. That's good. Hopefully we'll have it soon. And it may be that we're in good shape, so we'll see.
One more time. We talked about an independent audit. Did that just blow away with the wind, or where are we at with that?
Actually, what you had was the restatement by the independent audit team company that provided the financial statements for this year's audit. Because of the timeline there was, as I said early on, it would have to be rebid next year, the coming fiscal year. But you had an independent auditor work on the financial statements, which were part of the audit.
So we had somebody else other than Poole?
Yes, sir. We did. Put together the financial statements, which he based his opinions upon. Historically, he had done that.
We just received them tonight.
Yeah.
I just assumed this was our normal audit, because I know Jason.
No, it's not a normal audit at all. Normally, he did both the financial reports and statements and the audit. This year was divided into two pieces.
Anything else? I hope not. Anything else? Declare adjourned.